Flat Earth Debate Uncut and After Show. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon, and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you'd like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon, crypto, and thanks button in the info box below the video. Speaking of Patrons, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon. So, a massive shout out of thanks and appreciation to Twine to Triangle, Mitch Kennedy, Original D Rose, Rod, The Name's Burley, Twad Wazzle, Jason Hornsby, Christoph Fournier, Flat Earth Travolta, JMels24, Unamento, Iron26, Endless, Flat Earth Sage, Golden McKinnon, Retro Bill, More Books, Cannabear, Bogey, Michael Kahn, John Kays, Patrick Gunnels, Banter, Will, Brax, Mel B. Styles, Harry Blade, Mobile Max 777, Rob W, Reese Pound, Del West Watson, Maria Nealand, Unbelievable Productions, Blue Ridge Ranger, The Real Gabster, Abraham Mohammed, Skeptic 936, Life is Short, Texas Mike, David Wayne Foster, and Dank. So another massive thank you to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. Now I will hand over to whoever is in Discord and Google so you can enjoy their dulcet tones while I set up for today's live show.
That part they're deliberately not getting. You know that, right? It's deliberate. Unless they're outright just saying we're wrong and that's not how things go, but that's how things go in reality, right?
Yeah, that's geometrically, that's how it goes. I don't know. That's what refracted means, deviating from straight. So if you think you're getting a tangent so that you can figure out a dip angle, well, you got a curved and that one you would have a curved, yeah, a- adjacent. So you're not. It's ridiculous.
And then I gotta wait on Adam Meakin to update the graphics for the server, so it makes it look more identifiable that it's Nathan Oakley who's participating on here, right? And then that way it'll be kind of like branded better. Some of the guys that were on the
Yeah,
server, they definitely had to go, but some other guys that were on the server, they could have stayed. But I got other mods, right? So they also have their own decisions, right? On who stays and goes also. Generally, the main mods that I have on the server is just B is a Buzz and Divergent Droid. They're the main ones.
the version of Droid's a good mod though.
Yeah. So B is a Buzz is a good mod too, except you guys don't really hear him. He usually doesn't want to talk on air and so on and so forth, or he's not used to talking on air. But he does a lot of stuff behind the scenes that people don't notice. He's from the UK too, so
I've never
lately
heard
we
him, so
go
I
on.
can't judge that.
I cut you off. Say that again.
I said, yeah, I've never heard him, so I couldn't judge him for it, you know. But I believe you. I mean, you're good. You're a really good mod too. So
Yeah, I mean not Droid, B. He's usually like behind the scenes. He like watches people for hot mics. He gives he posts stuff from Skype into Discord and from Discord into Skype. And he also follows the
PG's the
comments
best.
too on YouTube. Say again.
There's no one that can compare to Divergent Droid. He is the best.
Well, to me, they're both the best.
I do have to say, I thought Divergent Droid was actually AI and just responding. When I first seen him popping up in chat before I actually spoke to him, I thought he was like a chat bot. I mean, you can't get any more neutral than that, you know? So,
Well,
anyway, I looked up a video for QE uh, Saturday, and that was painful. Um, yeah, I'm sorry, I was echoing there, but I had I had seen the video run through my news feed, and it was about paradoxes, and I was like, it was like a 15-minute video, and I couldn't find it again, so I had to watch a bunch of other. Well, I didn't have to. I took it upon myself to watch a bunch of videos, and like it rotted my brain out, or it felt like it did, watching heliocentric paradoxes, uh, universal paradoxes, as they call them, to try to find one that was concise.
A concise paradox.
Describing the paradox, concise about describing the paradox within their own paradigm.
I see. What reading between the lines, what you're saying is they come up with a narrative. The narrative has a hole in it, so they fill the hole. But then the hole that they filled the narrative hole with also has a hole, so they put another patch over the hole that was filling the hole in the narrative. Then that patch presents a paradox to the hole that was plugging the hole in the narrative. So the paradox isn't easy to explain because it's patching a hole with a problem with an original story. Correct?
Yeah, well, yeah, and people, I have my own paradox. You ready for it? It's called the Shelton paradox. Um, those with the least amount of to say speak the most.
That's not a paradox.
Yeah, it is. If you
It's
got,
just
if you
it's
have
not.
the
It's
least
just
amount
a
to say,
statement of
well,
fact. It's just a statement of fact. It's not a paradox. Paradoxically speaking, the people who know the, yeah, I suppose it is, isn't it? But just the fact that you talk the most doesn't necessarily make it paradoxical that you know the least, other than it being least and most quantifications for the two different things. But they're different. So because they're not intrinsically linked, I'm going to say it's not paradoxical. Sorry.
no, I said those with the least amount to say talk the most.
Oh, I misheard you. Those with the least amount to say, not those who know the least. Yeah, that is paradoxical because they are essentially the same thing.
well, if you're doing most of the talking, you're not doing as much listening, and if you're not doing enough listening, you're not going to know as much, right? And Nathan, you're gonna have to update your link. It's not working.
Which
Update
link?
it with the link I privately messaged you in Discord. I mean in Skype.
You mean the
Right
link
click
that
on it.
goes, the link under the public show?
Yes,
You've sent me a new one on Skype.
Skype privately. So just right click on it, copy link, and it has FE debate in the link. This is
Where?
a
I can't see
URL
you.
link.
Neil, Adam. I don't see you.
I'll go test. You see that now?
Good morning.
In Skype. Oh, yes, there you
In
are. Yes.
Skype.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so above test, right click on that,
Yeah, got it,
copy link,
Yeah, got it.
and right, and it has FE debate in the link, so it's more professional. And once Adam gets some of the graphic stuff done, it will look better and be more branded to the show and QE show. Okay.
Yeah, I'm just going to edit the live link now. Join the show. Here we go. Okay, that's been updated.
All right, thanks. And hello, 10th man.
Yeah, good morning,
Good day,
everyone.
good day.
And Nathan,
Good morning.
I've got
Good morning.
Morning.
I've got your video on right after your link in Master D review video. It's an educational one, so it's on the astrolabe.
Okay.
Short and sweet.
I want to say kudos and big props to Brian's Logic. I enjoyed that video on globaliatry. That was good.
Excellent video.
Was good.
Indeed, yes.
Yeah, Brian's good. Brian's improving as a videographer because he's always been a good researcher. I think because he's presenting similar things over and over again, they become more refined, more concise, so he can make his points more clearly, and then he can summarize the point before he makes the point, make the point, and then conclude the point by summarizing the point again. So he's kind of got he's got it down pat now.
Need to get off his back with that. He likes to explain himself thoroughly, but I like how he called it liometry. And Brian is ace. His illustrations are awesome.
Nobody's saying that Brian's not ace. If you're talking about how concise someone is, it has nothing to do with their personality or their intelligence.
I know exactly. I don't need that to explain to me. I'm just saying get off his back.
I'm not.
So
I'm not on his back.
Sometimes, this show is always repeating itself, and it's necessary that things are repeated. So Brian does it 4 times in the same sentence. What are you going to do?
That's not necessarily the problem, Neil.
Yeah, this one of his master teachers said redundancy reiterates the truth, and it, like Nathan said, it refines the truth and refines the details and the facts so that it gets more and more. Redundancy is necessary, especially when you're reiterating the truth and the facts, because it helps you tighten up your game. It helps you tighten up your articulation of it and everything. It's just a great thing to do. So more power to you. Keep doing it.
Can you repeat yourself again, please?
Yeah, can you go over that one more time? I didn't quite follow.
Well, there's also lies become accepted if they're spoken enough or repeated enough.
Correct.
However, the lies get exposed as being contradicting because you can't remember the details.
No, not necessarily.
It doesn't get refined. I don't think lies get refined.
If that were true, then the heliocentric model would have never gained a foothold in society.
Where you end up with your patchwork quilt of nonsense upon nonsense, and then paradox upon paradox. But once you've got to the point of 3 or 4 layers, it becomes too confusing for your average layman to dissect, and then they just accept that that there's somebody smarter out there that understands this. Somebody said it on Friday's show. The opponent that asks you why would they lie wants to get to a point in the discussion where you're found wanting in your explanation, and therefore the assumption is somebody smarter than me understands an overcome for this problem that I've had presented to me, and I do understand, but I just don't understand how to overcome it. It's not that it's a problem that can't be overcome having been highlighted to me. It's just a problem that I can't overcome because I'm not the person to overcome it. That's somebody smarter than me in a university somewhere. They could overcome it, and therefore I can continue on my way knowing I'm on a ball.
Yes, those people without a competent faculty of reason come to conclusions like that. Yes, they rely on others to tell them what's what.
But it seems to be a
Yeah,
small
that's a
percentage of people do the opposite. So when I think of this as an example as a kid, I do think about it in that vein, but I can also think about it in a different vein, which is to say, when I've described the bucket, swinging the bucket over your head when they've explained what gravity is to you, chocolate has got a similar story. And you do it and go, no, this makes no sense to me. But at some point you have to put it on the back burner and go, okay, it makes no sense, but I'll figure it out at a later date. But for now, that just doesn't make sense to me. What they said doesn't add up. But then you put it to the back of your mind. Now, where putting it to the back of your mind means it flashes before you when someone mentions flat Earth, like it did with me when Math Powerland mentioned it. For the other person, that just needs a little bit of reinforcement for the process to continue kicking the can down the road, like I did when I was a kid. So, oh, I don't understand it now. Well, that's because you don't understand pseudo force space. The bending time. Did you not understand? Oh, I don't understand that. Well, let me explain it to you. At the end of that process, I still don't understand, but it's only because I'm not smart enough to understand the concepts that have just been explained to me. I'm sure one day I'll understand them, and in the meantime, somebody out there does understand them where I don't, and therefore gravity's real.
Yeah. Well,
Well,
it's interesting you said that about the bucket and spinning it above your head to put the, um, the inertia of the water as you change vectors keeps the water inside the bucket. That's the same argument we're hearing from people who are essentially the same argument we're hearing from people that are claiming the earth is rising up.
I was going to say, is it fair to say that even though, like you said, John, there's the lie with the redundant and perpetuating same old lie, but that on the other side, that there were people like y'all and us that were resisting and maybe, you know, either gave up or due to whatever repercussion, they were going to face, they had to be silenced or they were censored. But it had nothing to do with the redundancy of the lie. It just had to do with the lack of purporting the truth that let the lie overwhelm society by just pretty much saying, or whatever was some type of enforcement of shut up or this is what's going to happen to you. Where there were mathematicians, that were for the truth, and there were physicists and everybody, but they just got pretty much censored and shut
I
down.
don't know if there was. To be honest, that's my cry the whole time. Where were all the educated people when they were promoting this globe nonsense?
No, they're still there.
What
Yeah,
happened?
Let me
I'll
explain.
tell you where they were.
Oh, no, let me have a bash. So,
Okay.
you just have to look at how it's disseminated currently. You don't need a power that should not be. You just need to control what is presented of the narrative. So let's say that there is equal measure of flat Earth versus anti-flat Earth, right? Well, that measure can be tipped in the balance in terms of how many people it's presented to. And then the overcome, let's say the Andrew Thomas Young refracted horizon nonsense. If that's presented often enough, it's like we were discussing at the beginning, that's just the lie being represented often so that people accept it. Well, that's just you allowing that part of the narrative to become prevalent where the opposing view isn't. So you don't need to have somebody actually doing that. Your average Joe Normie does that for you off his own back because he wants to confirm his bias.
that's a good answer, but really we can't speak to it because any answer we give is an argument to silence.
Oh, no, hold on a second. You're talking about the nature of reality that was going on in whatever 1600s. You had to have people that were educated, but not even educated, that just could see the fallacy in living on a ball, and they allowed this to happen.
It didn't happen that way, Neil. What happened was a small group of people went for the ball. The rest of humanity didn't even know it was happening. Once it got into the educational system, governments, then it took a run. So what happened was some Greeks thought the world was a ball. It was only in their mind, their imagination. They named them even after their gods, Jupiter and Saturn. And then they said, well, we must be a ball. So then they started uh, trying to do the math for it. And then obviously Copernicus came and gave some flesh to that bone, and it started shifting. And then the argument was there. John Calvin stood against it, Luther stood against it. And throughout history, people have stood against it. But this is what it was going to go towards. And so once it infiltrates from K to 12 and the high colleges and universities, it just becomes the worldview, but not for the masses, just the West or the higher education. So what's happening is they're taking you to Narnia. So everyone who goes through college is already in the begging the question, we're on the ball. So then they do all the thing for that. Excuse me, I got to take this call.
And I think that's why the moon landing was so important, because that locked it in.
Well, we don't know that. You know what I mean?
What do you mean?
Like, we don't know that locked it in. If
it didn't
was
hurt it.
Yeah, damn sure didn't hurt it.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm still trying to figure out what you're talking about now. What do you mean you didn't hear it?
I said it didn't hurt it. You may say it may not have locked it in, but it sure didn't hurt it.
Right, but it wouldn't. If you told someone that you walked on a light in the sky back, in antiquity, they would have slapped you across the face and kept walking. Insulted that you would say something to them that would insult their intelligence so much. So, or you would have been strung up for claiming godhood and burnt or whatever. So it had to be accepted on some level for the moon landing to work.
John, I was about to say, the good old days.
Hey, I remember that. I was only 4 years old, but I remember my father setting up and the TV being on, looking at the window. I remember him looking at eclipses through a little hole in the cardboard. My father was deep into that stuff.
Your dad had a TV at that time.
Yes, he had a TV. He had a little black and white TV.
You're a well-off family.
No. I always remember a TV. So when people say that was only for people with money, I laugh.
Yeah, I definitely laughed because I definitely remember me and Neil's the same age. I remember watching football and watching, Alfred Hitchcock, all kinds of programs that my grandparents and my parents used to watch. I remember all of it in black and white
But do you remember that
with
you
little
couldn't even
dial
get a
knobs.
Knicks game? You couldn't even get a Knicks game live. You had to watch it on tape delay in the late
Yeah, I
60s,
don't know
early
whether I was watching
70s.
it live or not.
You wasn't watching Clyde Frazier, Earl Pearl Monroe, Dave DeBuscher. Come on. You had to
Neil,
get it on tape delay.
I remember during NOM, women had football on television. I remember that. There was a female football league while the guys were getting shipped away. There was a female football league right as the NFL started, really. The AFL and NFL joined together and started doing their beginning Super Bowls. I remember that. There was the first female football league was in the early 70s.
So it's a distraction.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's programming, right? They're programming us with the idiot
Exactly.
box. You know, I just looked. I got the TV on mute. I just seen 3 commercials, and all 3 of them had black swans in them.
Not done so already, then be sure to subscribe. Hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth debate. If you'd like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon, crypto and thanks button in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. Now, we are joined by the Adam Meakin, Righteous Force, Refracted Curvature, Neil, 10th Man Rising, Gravity is Not a Force, and a whole bunch of people in Discord, so welcome one and all.
Morning.
Morning.
Whoa, whoa, whoa! Whose gravity is not a force?
The Sleeping Warrior.
It's me.
Do a bit of
I knew
housekeeping.
it.
Welcome one and all. Any evidence of a physical geometric sphere edge? It's horizon, formerly known as Earth curve.
Not one bit. As a matter of fact, just to allude to what Neil was saying, you ever notice on those landscaping scenes they show between sets of a movie you're watching? They always show you 180 degrees of that circle, and it's total horizontal leveled plane from the left to the right, from 50 to hundreds of miles out in that city landscape, depending on where the city is that the movie's talking about. They tell you right there in the
Nah,
film. No curve,
you don't
negative
understand
curve.
what you don't understand. What it's actually showing is there's a bulge in the middle of the screen at all times, and as you move around, the bulge moves around with you. It's just too small; you can't see it.
Oh, surface level is curved and eye level is straight.
No, it's just the illusion of a straight line when it's actually a curved line, and there's a peak in the middle, and the peak moves around with the lens all the time.
So eye
You just
level
can't
is
see it.
so eye level is an illusion of a horizontal baseline.
No, I'm just saying that there is curvature there. You just can't see it.
Right.
Because of the
You're
camera
saying that
lens?
the surface level is curving and eye level is curving also, so you can't get an angle measurement from that.
No, I'm just saying that the curve is there when they do the panoramic sweep, but you're just so small you can't see it. That's all I'm saying. You're saying the rest yourself.
Okay, well, how do you
Because of the
get a
camera lens,
differential
right?
between eye level and sea level if you have curved lines?
Just calculate it, of course.
Now, how do you measure it?
Alberuni.
Alberoni used a flat plane to get the height of the mountains and eye
Well-
level to get the differential between surface level and his
But
eye.
he did get the measured angle though, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, so it's back to a globe.
No,
So, Anthony, you're
no,
saying
you can't go back to a globe with that. It's 2 flat planes, not a globe.
So did Alberuni get a measured angle? Yes or no?
Yes.
Then it's globe.
No.
yeah, you're claiming it's physical though. You're claiming the horizon's physical, and that can't be true because it's always moving. It's never in the same place.
Interestingly enough, today's video review will be on the subject of the astrolabe, which is what supposedly Al-Biruni in his story used, and that will be the tell of tell-alls.
Any evidence you can acquire an elevation angle measurement from a curved baseline?
Hello. Can you hear me?
Anthony?
That's a negative.
Can you, Anthony?
Hey, and
Let Anthony answer.
hey, Arwin.
Hello, guys.
Hello. What up?
Elevation angle from a curved baseline. I mean, you could probably draw it, but it wouldn't be really correct, though. So you could probably do it if you not really do it, but think of it as doing it. But I mean, a computer's not going to buy that, though. They're not programmed to do that. You'd have to like program the computer with doublethink.
If you put a flat
program.
line on top of the curve and use that as a horizontal baseline, then you could probably get away with it.
Right, something like that.
What's the nonsense here? An angle is two straight lines meeting at a vertex. A curved line does not at all equate into an angle.
No, you just draw a straight line on top of the curve and then take it from the straight
Right.
line. But as long as it curves underneath it, then we live on a globe.
Right,
Right,
you
as
just need
long as
to
it's
draw
not
a horror
refracted.
line. You just draw the horror line and use that.
Don't refract it though, because that would just ruin everything about that.
We don't refract the horror line. Everything is already refracted.
What do you mean by
Hey,
horror line?
Aaron.
What do you mean horror line? I mean
The
Horizontal.
The horror
horizontal.
value.
HOR.
remember?
Contradiction in terms. You don't bend horizontal.
Right, they're claiming to put a horizontal on top of the sphere and get the angle from that. But then they also turn, that's an angle to a sphere. But then they turn around and say refraction, which you don't have that tangent pointing to claim that.
Yeah, whatever. You don't need that. You just do what Bob the Science Guy did and draw a horror value, and it'll fix it.
Don't mention refraction.
But you don't need to not or do mention refraction. It's not relevant.
It's absolutely relevant.
It's
If you're looking
it's a geometric side view model anyway that you're going to be using for that. So
if the lines are bent, you're not going to get angles, are you, Arwin? So it's absolutely relevant. And all of their lines are now bent as they've all been refracted. Their rebuttal to the black swan is to say that the lines to the horizon are bent. Well, then they're not tangent points. They're not going to be used for angles. They're not going to be used for dip correction. All of those things need straight lines.
Yeah, but they
Game
will
over.
in the geometric side view orthographic view model, though. That's
No.
the
So
point.
not refracted.
No. Even in an orthographic side view model, a bent line isn't a tangent. A bent line isn't going to give you an angle. It doesn't make any difference that it's an orthographic view.
But it does, because in the orthographic view, it's geometric and not optical. So you get to see it as the real globe, but then you have to add a horror value. You don't have to adapt it to refraction, because in that side view model, it's not happening. It's only happening in the real world where it looks so flat.
Then you're essentially decrying that model represents reality. So you're saying, fine, but I just say that the globe model doesn't represent reality because it's not conducive with what we see or experience in reality. Yeah, that's what we're saying, though, aren't we, Arwin? I mean, trying to say it as an apologetic for the globe isn't going to work, because we're like, okay, then. So that's the end of that, then. It's not the model,
the baller's
it's not the
argument.
world.
It's just like McKeegan. You just don't understand.
You just don't understand how it doesn't work on a globe. I see.
Yeah, you don't get to see the geometric horizon. You only see it in the model.
Geometric
The baller's
horizon.
argument
Hold
redefined the
on.
terms.
The conclusions come in. The geometric horizon that Arwin's just explained we don't see and only exists in the model. That's Earth curve.
Yes.
Earth curve doesn't
now
exist in reality. It only exists in the model. Yeah, again, we're in agreement.
Well, no, not Earth's not curving. The surface is level and horizontal in the model. There's a curve underneath that you draw a line to in that model.
Okay, then.
Yeah, but let's get back to the housekeeping question. No, it geometrically doesn't work. You can't have a curve adjacent next to a baseline. Or did I say it wrong? You can't have that geometrically. And reality, if everything is refracted, well, then it still doesn't really work.
Well, you can have it too. You just can't have it from.
Remember how the sextant works, right? It's an angle measuring device.
Yes.
It meets at the vertex where the eye is, where the observer is. When you do this astrolabe video, It's going to shock the ballers.
We do that now, or did you want a couple more housekeeping questions as it's early days?
One more housekeeping.
Any evidence of the distance to the sun?
It's over there. I can see it.
The distance to the sun.
3 AU. Oh, that's not. It's an apparent distance. So now, actual distance is going to be very hard to achieve that.
We
We'd
don't
have
even
to
need
be
the
able to
distance.
approach it.
Well, I was taught it was 93 million miles away, and I'm gonna stick to that.
All
Okay.
that
Yeah, but
concerns us
this-
is the angle of the sun. We don't need to know about the distance to it. It's irrelevant.
No, we don't, but we're asking for evidence via the people who do claim that there is a distance and it needs to be proven, needs to be measured. They haven't got anything. We're not claiming it. You're absolutely right. Further to debunking any actual measurement that they could make or claim, we don't have a claim to make. Why do we need a distance to the sun exactly? What are we claiming it is?
A light
It
in the
is
sky.
helpful if you claim a distance for them. That way they can debunk your distance and keep their delusion intact.
I see. So it relies upon us having a false dichotomy distance to offer to them for them to debunk to, like we talked about in the pre-show, be able to, oh, well, someone somewhere is going to be able to overcome the argument, even though it's been found wanting on my part for my religious belief in a globe. But ultimately, their claim that we discussed afterwards when I demanded that they presented an alternative view is also useless, therefore we're still on a globe.
They have a distance for it for many reasons. One would be, why does the moon and the sun look the same size? The other is in celestial navigation, the distance is not even part of the equation. It's the angular relationship. So it has nothing to do with distance. So on one side, they say celestial navigation proves the globe, which it doesn't. It's the opposite, as we'll see shortly and have seen for the last couple of years. But at the same time, they say the distance is 93 million miles away because we got to explain what it's a far away sun, and that's why the moon and sun look the same size.
Based on the presupposition.
It's all based on presupposition. When it gets into the intricate details of how a sextant works or an astrolabe works, and they say that proves a globe, that tool and the way it works kills the globe, as you'll see in a minute.
But that's like saying that a toaster proves that bread doesn't exist.
Oh, what?
If you're saying an astrolabe and a sextant proves a globe, that's like saying a toaster proves that bread doesn't exist.
Nice.
Okay. Right, should we do today's video then?
Yes.
Not yet. Not yet.
Okay.
Let me address Paul. Are you there, Paul? Paul LVA.
I
I don't know if he's here.
No, he's not here.
Oh, there was a guy talking before. I'm not sure of his name because he's in Discord. I can't see it.
One
but I
deck.
reckon- One deck. Just speak, mic up, one deck. Let me catch your voice.
Hey, mate, you all right?
Yeah, you're the guy. You were asking recently in one of the shows, maybe a week or two ago. You were saying about how you're a bit unsure how to answer the query, why down and not any other direction? Why not like laterally? Do you remember that querying that? Because you said that you weren't sure how to address it.
Yeah, I was saying when you get onto the gravity and density topic, the Globers come out. They'll ask you, why down, and why not? Sideways? Why is it always down? And I just answered it as, well, that's what we observe and that's what happens. But I just wondered how you guys attack it or address it.
Sure. There's two ways that to address this, and one's a thought thing. If you get a bucket on the floor and start filling the bucket with water, do we fill the bucket with vertical strips of water from the tap, or does the water hit the bottom of the bucket, then laterally fill the container and then start to rise? When it starts to laterally fill the bucket, that's an example of lateral displacement. It's not vertical. And then the second example would be, if you think of any any like what we call or what we describe as convection currents. So like when the sun evaporates the water and the water changes state into a gas and it starts to vaporize and rise, we see that creates a high pressure in that area because of the ratio of how much volume is created whilst the hydrogen bond is broken in the process of evaporation. It creates volumes, lots of volumes of pressure. It's called high pressure, right? And that pressure laterally displaces across the surface of the water. We call that prevailing winds. Another example of not down when things are displacing. So it's horizontal. But if you look at if you type in water tests on YouTube and type in water density tests, you can find there's fish tanks, and one side of it's filled with hot water, and the other side's filled with cold water, and they put dye in it to show like blue for cold, hot, red for hot, and then they take the divide out in the middle, and you can see how it like mixes, and it doesn't mix vertically. It convex. We would describe it as convection, but it laterally displaces in all directions as it swirls and plumes its way around, but it doesn't go vertical. So when they say why down, the answer is, well, it's not down, is it? That's the name that we call it, so that we know what we're talking about. So if I say down, you know that I'm pointing to my feet. Well, what if I'm lay on my bed and I'm lay laterally and I say down, then am I going to point to the floor and therefore 90 degrees behind my back, or am I going to still point to my feet? Now, whichever way you answer that question, the answer to the question of why down is because the human gives it the name down. It's referenced to the human. So it's not actually down. It's just the direction that we use, the name that we use, so that we know what we're talking about. So why down? And the answer is because human, no direction.
Can I add to that a bit? Because I think there's a third way of seeing it, and that is that it's a little bit more convoluted, perhaps, but yeah, the displacement of how it happens through relative density. Well, the way that it is set, the up and the down are up and the down because of how this material works, right? How this is working. Because if the axis for the density would have naturally been, so let's say, diagonal, well, guess what would happen? All the material in the entire realm would be rearranged until the diagonal is just up and down again, right? So it's always going to be up and down because of the way we orient ourselves, because of the way the material divides within the realm. So that's much more direct why up and down. It's up and down because of the way it is.
It sounds like a malformed question to me. Why down is why this, noun it's malformed.
Well, they say they
it's
put
like
things
why
in
in that direction.
Well,
right?
the word you're fishing for is relative. And you're saying it in terms of relative density, but that's obviously the density of the thing that you're displacing versus the medium that it's in, as opposed to the relative direction with relation to you in your specific medium that you reside in. So for us, it's air. So generally speaking, when we say down, Anthony's right, you might be lying horizontally on a bed. Therefore, down is the foot of the bed, as opposed to the floor that you'll step out and stick your slippers on. Right? So it's relative to you. Well, that's true with all directions. There's one exception, and somebody can name another one, which is the north, as in Polaris. You've got a fixed reference point. It's not relative. It's always in the same place. So it doesn't matter which way you orientate yourself to it. It will always be in that direction. So you've got a fixed reference point for navigation. Very useful. But in terms of us describing how things displace in air, the rules all change as soon as you change the medium. You go to water, and obviously the direction that something may have gone down in may go up now that you're in water, you included. It's relative.
Yeah, but in the same sense, why east, right? If someone asks you why east,
Yeah,
the question is
okay, I should have
malformed.
acknowledged your point. Your point is that it's a malformed question, and you're absolutely correct, and that's a better example. It's like saying, why always east? Well, what if we're going west? No, but if we assume that everything goes east...
Right. Why does the sun come up?
No, what they say is
I'll go with that. No. But because of the sun, it doesn't matter what I insert after that statement. Therefore, always east. Why not? Good one, Owen.
Well, I understand what Rachel was saying is in a vacuum chamber, why do less dense things go down or more dense things go down and not up or to the left or to the right? Why always to the ground?
Because you've removed the
Because-
medium.
Hold on.
Right.
So let me get it straight. Her
I
question
answered
is,
that.
why do all things tend towards the ground in a vacuum chamber?
Because you've removed the medium.
Hold
on which
on.
the
Correct.
matter
Hold
is
on. I just want to
relative
establish
to.
that is her question. Is that right, Neil? Her question is, why do things tend towards the ground in a vacuum chamber?
Vacuum. Yes.
They don't.
If you
What do you
remove
mean
the
they
gas-
don't?
Gas
well,
wouldn't,
he's talking
would
about
it?
gas molecules.
So
So
Yeah, they go-
hold on.
They
Gotta-
fill the available value, right?
why is there 4 people talking? The assertion is that you're introducing stuff into an empty space, a vacuum, and that it will tend to the ground. What, with gravity? Or with the world going up? No, gases are dispersed in all directions when you introduce them to that space. All vectors. You don't get a puddle of gas in a vacuum chamber when you introduce it. It's absurd. Sorry, Rachie.
Right. Right. But the balloon that it was inside of goes to the ground, right? Why not to the left or why not to the right? That's what
Because
they're
it's
saying.
more
I
dense.
don't get it.
And it goes down, and down
Well,
is
all right.
down because it is down, and that's the way it's oriented because it is that way.
Let's make it easy, right? So we can reference it easily, right? You're all familiar with the egg test, right? And that was one egg in one jar, and it was showing one position, one set of facts, right? If I'd have put a second egg and it was identical to the first egg, if I put a second egg in that same solution, would that second egg be on top of, below, or would it be alongside of?
Someone answering then. I'm
That
gonna-
depends if there's
gonna
enough
stop to this.
maneuvering room for the egg to be alongside it.
Okay,
in
just
the thing.
maybe I can put this question to Rachie. Do you want to round that out, Anthony? Go ahead.
So if I put a third egg along, like in that solution, would it be above, below, or would it be in the same position as? And the answer is it would be in the same position as. What if I put 100 eggs? Would it be above, below, or in the same position? It'd be in the same position. But there's a limit to how much the position can be because there's a container, right? It's only so big. But the point is, they start to laterally displace by virtue of the medium relative to the matter. So if you remove the medium completely, but you've got matter that's not a zero value, it's a positive value, it's a something rather than a nothing, it's going to displace that nothing value because by virtue of its own mass or matter. But then if you have lots and lots and lots of them and they're all in the same position relative to all their other friends around them, like the egg scenario, then you get lateral displacement. You don't get up and down, you get lateral. It's all relative to the medium.
Fascinating.
But you're
Andrew,
still-
just one sec. Sorry, in regards to the general nature of the world that I experience, Anthony, how is this relevant? Is this in backing of some claim that you're making, or what? Why are you telling me this?
Well, it was just referencing Rachel's query, why down? I mean, you can look into the sky. And
Perfect.
you look at
That's all I
the
needed.
cumulonimbus
Thank you.
Clouds,
That's all I
and you
needed.
see that they're all
That's all I needed. Yeah, that's right. It was just Rachie. Yeah, I was going to hand over to her, but I wanted you to round out your point because it was valid and true and correct. However, and it's as a result of Rachie posing this, what is the positive claim that Rachie is trying to support in this regard? Has she noticed some phenomena in nature that needs to be explained that may give some bearing to the world that we experience? Why precisely is she defending this? Is there some claim besides it that she needs to make? That's what I'm trying to find out from perhaps
No, I
Rachie, if
think-
she can let me know.
I think it's because she believes that there is an objective up and an objective down, like Bob Nodell used to say.
Correct.
So she,
They're
she
only
wants to.
objective
Hold on.
directions because
God
of the
damn.
density direction.
So, based on being wrong, she feels there's a claim that needs defending. Is that correct?
No, I think she's trying to ask it as a gotcha question, like so why down then? And because there's no explanation if you don't have an objective up and down.
Okay, why down? No, not always down. Releases gas into vacuum chamber, goes in all directions, not objectively down. Releases helium balloon, looks up at clouds, not always down. So I start again. Based on the incorrect assumption that all things go towards the ground, she's asking and then defending a claim that she doesn't have to actually defend because it's incorrect in the first instance. It's only incorrect because there is a positive claim that holds us to a spinning water ball, though, right? So outside of the positive assertion that holds us to a spinning water ball, why is she defending this claim?
Who knows? I think it's because she believes that there's an objective up and an objective down.
We've covered this. She's
That is the
wrong.
reason. Yeah, I know, but that's what she thinks.
Okay, well,
That's the reason why.
okay, Rachie, you're wrong. There is no objectiveness to a relative direction. Okay, what's up to you might be down to something else. Depends. It's all relative. However, even if it was the case, let's say there was, who cares? How does this affect our world? We're debating about the nature of the world. If it swings one way or the other, or you have a decent, coherent explanation for what we observe as a second-order effect of entropy, how does it benefit me? How does it help us in the discussion that we're having with heliocentrists that think that they're stuck to a side of a spinning water ball? Outside of their claim that they make, that they need to defend, why are we defending this crap? Who cares? Same goes for Dell. Nothing against Dell. So what purpose is it that you're trying to defend? What is it that you're trying to achieve? And if it's the same answer, or because I think all things tend towards the ground, they don't. Yeah? Now,
It's
just
not
being
for
wrong...
defense, it's for to
My
satisfy
God,
curiosity.
did it sound like I'd ended?
Yeah.
No, it didn't. I was in the middle of the sentence I was saying. Thank you. So, Dal, you have no necessity to defend this. There's nothing for you to claim outside of the world moving up, which is pretty outrageous, let's be honest. Yeah? But outside of your outrageous claim that the world's moving up, there's nothing to defend because not all things tend towards the ground. So what are we left with? We're left with numpties making claims, defending things they don't need to, on the basis that heliocentrists have got us stuck to the side of a bloody ball, flying through space. Yet once you relinquish that, there's nothing to defend. You don't need to defend this. I'm done now, Arwin.
Well, that's
I would
fine.
like to
But there's
reiterate-
hold on. There's no use in
Sure.
defending it, as you said. It's just there to satisfy the curiosity. They just want to know why. And they want to know it beyond their reach.
Okay.
'Cause
Wait.
It is beyond.
Let's just try and draw an example with something less contentious. Okay. There are plenty of things that we do not know as a result of relinquishing heliocentrism. Some of them necessitate a narrative that props up a flaw in their narrative. Their story falls short. Excuse me. And as a result of their story falling short, they come up with a new narrative, a patchwork to overcome the flaws in their narrative, right? Gravity is one of those patchworks. We discussed this in the pre-show. Check it out if you're a member. It was an interesting discussion. Anyway, but for that narrative and the requirement for the patchwork, outside of that, you don't have any inquiry. So by contrast, the sky being blue has got an explanation within heliocentrism. Scattering is the explanation. Now, it's not required to keep you stuck to a side of a spinning water ball. Therefore, we're not offered up in the Feast of Nonsense narrative of Flat Earth an alternative like the world moving up in the Flat Earth Society or Dell's current rhetoric. We don't have an alternative, but for the fact that we've been given one. Now, if it wasn't for the Earth being spherical in their claim and needing a patchwork to overcome us not flying off it, yeah, we wouldn't have their gravity. Likewise, there's nothing within the sky being blue that's dependent on heliocentric spinning ball worldviews. Therefore, we're not suddenly fascinated about figuring out why the bloody sky's blue. I'm not arguing about it or coming up with narratives about the Earth flying up towards it, causing a shift in the colours that we see. Yeah, because it's not got a heliocentric counterpart. Therefore, who's interested in why the sky... Why isn't Rachel asking me about why the sky is blue and giving an alternative scattering? Because she's not being foisted into that position by heliocentrists. Because there's no need to. They haven't got a counter-narrative to defend in regards to the sky being blue. Who gives a shit if it's not scattering? It doesn't affect whether or not we're on their view of being on a ball. Therefore, it's not argued about. But because they do need gravity, suddenly Rachel feels that she's got to defend some narrative that she hasn't got a claim in that regard towards.
Well, you know, you guys could ask me. Like, I have a different opinion on this, or different position, I should say, on this.
On a malformed question,
Well,
Sorry, which
Nathan's
hold on, let's
asked,
just
why-
establish
why-
that. Hold on, sorry, Righteous. Is it why always down or why always east? Which one are you? Which non sequitur are we having an answer for here.
Well, I don't say down. I just say why do the most dense things go down? And
In
for that, the
water?
rebuttal.
But that's not true. Change the medium, that changes, doesn't it? What about if you float a bloody anvil on Mercury? What are you talking about? That's just not correct. Very frustrating.
Okay, but this is not what I wanted to talk about.
But it's wrong. You want me to let you babble
know.
on about it? It's not right. We've just covered how it's not
That's
right.
not what I'm talking about.
It's medium specific. You've just given an example that's wrong. I changed the medium. Your example falls on its ass, and you want me to let you carry on? No.
No, I don't want to talk about that. I want to ask about something else you asked. You asked Raichi, how does this benefit us in this arena?
Fair enough.
Right?
Go ahead.
All right. And well, the thing is, if we are wrong, right, then it would be a detriment to us to keep going with something that's wrong. But you say we're not wrong, so then in that case, you know, you're persuaded. But to Raichi, if she's not persuaded and she thinks we're wrong, then that would be her motive. Would that make sense?
Wrong about what? I haven't got a claim to be right or wrong about. What am I wrong about? Sorry, what was I claiming again, Raichi? Oh, there's only the alternative dross that you've got to defend against because they're stuck to the side of a spinning water ball. Once you relinquish that, there's nothing to be claimed.
Can I just say something? Sorry, I know it's getting a bit, but thanks again. Anyway, Sleepy Murray, for giving examples, appreciate that. But when I've discussed it gets down to me with some globers where we established that in air, the medium of air, if something is on Earth, if something's more dense than air, it goes down.
Okay, and that affected my flat Earth worldview because I've got a claim in it in what regard exactly?
No, I know, I agree with you, and I just say, well, that's just what happens. That's what we observe, and we can do experiments. And in air, if I hold a brick and drop it, it's more denser than the air, so it falls.
Okay,
now they ask you, well, why
you're whistling past me. I get that one, Dick, but this is entirely moot from my side of the fence. Who cares? Oh, so you've explained that. That's very useful. Was I asking? Oh, no, I'm only being forced into a position where I need to know because they've got a side of a spinning water ball to not be flying off.
Because they're all missing it. We don't need to we don't have to give answers for this. We're not on a ball. We're on a flat Earth.
So, you know, when you just said, when you just said then, why does an object go down? And it's the medium. You were saying about the medium. The real direction, the absolute direction, is provable, verifiable. You can repeat it. It's not the direction of up and down that's actually happening. That's the name we give it. It's actually more dense and less dense. It's finding its point of equilibrium. Like, so when you pull the egg, like if I was to press down on the egg and let go of it, it'd go back to the point that it was in before. If I push it from the underside and then let go of it, it'll go back down to the point that was in before, like a rubber band. No matter which way you pull a rubber band, it'll always go back to its position, right? That's the egg's finding its position of neutrality or equilibrium. And we call it up and down, but the real vector or the real unit of direction is actually more or less dense. If you pull the egg out of equilibrium, you're either making it more dense than the medium's point or less dense than the medium's point, but you're making a disparity, right? And then when you let go of it, it equalizes. And that's what you're actually seeing, more or less dense. And that's the direction, not up and down.
Yeah, I love this point in the argument where it gets to, we have to figure out what gravity is. We have to figure out how it's superseded by bending pseudo force space. Then we have to figure out how that and the speed of light's debunked by quantum mechanics. Then we have to get to the point where suddenly we're regurgitating feast of nonsense crap that we don't have to make claims about in regards to a contrapositive claim about a non-gravity on a flat Earth. Then I can come along and go, this is all pointless. Ask yourself how this benefits you if you're listening. If you didn't know prior to Anthony's very concise and scientifically validated explanation for relative density disequilibrium, then that's wonderful. Can you tell me how you're going to put that into practical application in your life moving forward? What's that you say? Flat Earth can't be put into practical application when you can save your life with it with navigation? Yeah, I'm pretty sure you can. But I'd like to know how this is useful to me. As a flat earther, if I agree, disagree, argue the toss with Dell about Earth moving up, and his positive claim of that outrageous nonsense, where does it benefit me? Where's it useful? Where's it put into practical application? How, beyond knowing that it's a second order effect of entropy, How is it useful to me in this discussion about the nature of the world?
Can I ask the sleeping
It's
warrior a question?
useful for debunking globers.
Oh,
Well, I just like
perfect.
to-
Got there immediately. Who needs thanks? Who said that?
That was me. That was Duncan.
Perfect timing and immediate. Couldn't thank you enough, Duncan. Indeed. So it's useful for debunking globe, which is why I haven't stopped anybody from giving the concise renditions of all of these exploratory investigations that they've done to figure out second order effects of entropy, in this case relative density disequilibrium. Very useful for debunking the positive assertion made by the globe that they're stuck to the side of a spinning water ball flying through a vacuum because of a non-force force that you can think of as a force that isn't really a force, it's a bending 4D conceptual medium known as space-time. Once you've debunked that, stop! Don't go on to claiming that the bloody Earth moves up at 9.8 metres per second, as per Einsteinian pseudo-force space, and indeed the Flat Earth Society, because it benefits you zero to do so. It doesn't benefit anybody, in fact. Doesn't give you any practical application, doesn't give you any useful tools to move forward with. It's a useful folly, which is a contradiction in terms it doesn't have any use for you, the audience, or me debating this subject, beyond debunking the claim that you're stuck to the side of a bloody ball. Thank you, Duncan.
And
was
I
your
might
query?
add, I just want to add, I appreciate you, Anthony, for your concise. I want to concur with Nathan. Your concise explanation of this whole scientific reality, because now it explains to me how to explain to my child why
Yeah.
the ball with the air in it
What the hell's going on with
surfaces to
the...
the surface
Have
of
you
the
turned into
water.
some
It
deep
won't.
south horse wrangler? What's with the
Your
accent?
voice changed.
What's going on?
His voice just changed.
Dang,
Just let me speak.
Rastafis.
Let me speak, please. Now I can explain to my child why the ball, the inflated ball, comes to the surface so abruptly and so spontaneously, because if you think about it, the ball is solid matter, the water is a liquid matter, and then there's air that is a gas matter in it. So when you talk about neutrality and equilibrium, the ball don't know where to go. It can't sink because it's not because
This
the
is
water
deeply
will
unnerving.
prevail.
I don't like hearing a brother with a deep southern twang. This is horrible. I don't like this. This is making me very
Yeah.
uncomfortable.
I concur.
Y'all get my point. It's like that whole definition of the neutrality and the equilibrium is like the ball's right there. It's like, you push it down, bloop, it comes up to the top. You drop it in the air, bloop, it hits the water, doesn't go any deeper. It's right it's at the point of equilibrium. It's like, what do? I got
Well,
air in it. I can't rise.
Not
I
really.
got. I'm,
Hold
well,
on,
what
D-Rose.
else can it
Not
do?
really. In that case, mate, you've got a ball that's more dense than the air, but it's significantly less dense than the water. So it's being pushed. It's being pushed by the water up, but it's heavy enough to displace the air. But it sits on the surface of the water, so it's in a state of fall or rest. It's not in equilibrium. For it to be truly in equilibrium, there should be nothing stopping it from accelerating anywhere. But it's just not accelerating.
Is it because it's mixed with? Is it? What I'm saying is it because of what? Okay, take the air out of it. Does it sink then? That's what I'm saying.
It doesn't make any difference.
I'm talking
He's
about the
talking about
properties.
even if you remove the air, if you've got a Wile E. Coyote example, right? It gets to the edge of the cliff and the cliff breaks away. Yeah? There's still nothing supporting anything. It doesn't matter if there's air or not. He's still in fall arrest, right? And then he's going to continue his journey down to the ground. And if the ground happens to be a thin layer above a cave, he's still in fall arrest. Do you follow?
Exactly. And that's what I'm talking about. The three properties of matter: solid, liquid, and gas. So you took one of the properties out. You took the air out that ball. Now that ball is going to be the greater property than the water. It's going to sink to the bottom. But it's funny how it sits, like you said, full rest, whatever you call it, which is the appropriate, maybe I was using the wrong terminology, how it sits there and sits in buoyancy, where there's, even if you put helium in that ball, not the balloon, the ball, that ball is not going to sink. It's going to sit there on that water. But if you take that helium out, that ball, that solid material, the ball itself is going to sink to the bottom. That's the point I'm making when you break it down to like a 7-year-old.
Can you mute Anthony? Play that again, D-Rose. We missed the end because of Anthony. 90 people watching. Woo! Please share the show.
And Anthony, please interject when I'm done. But I'm saying, explaining to a 7-year-old, I'm just explaining to him how the three properties, solid, liquid, and gas, which he understands. You put helium in that, not in a balloon, because something about that balloon, that solid material is not dense enough to make the difference. But that basketball filled with helium, it would sit there at that rest state that you said, not going up because of the ratio of helium to that basketball synthetic solid material, and then that water, whether it be a bucket or whatever, or be a pool. But as soon as you take that helium out, then the solid is going to win. So back to the coyote thing. Everything to me that's solid. I'm not talking about like an apple to me that has hollowness to it. I think that's why that comes back to the surface. But everything that's solid, a pebble that's the size of a dime to a pebble that's the size of a baseball, goes down.
It's like the Cartesian diver. I remember when Brian, me and Brian had a disagreement over the phraseology of what we were seeing, and somebody had said that it was pressure manipulation, and I was like, well, we are manipulating the density of the medium relative to the object, and it's causing the acceleration. He said, yeah, but what's the mechanical process that's doing it? And I was like, well, it is the density, isn't it? I said it's pushing against one side of the egg or whatever, and then he reminded me of the Cartesian diver, which is where you get like a 2-liter bottle of pop, obviously put water in it so you can see, put in your little Cartesian diver, and as you squeeze the bottle, the diver drops. As you let go of the bottle, the diver goes back up. And so the question was, well, what's happening there? And obviously when you squeeze it, you're putting more pressure against the air pocket inside the diver, and then when you let go of it, you're removing the pressure against the air pocket, so you're changing the relative size of the diver. So you get smaller, same mass, bigger, same mass. But that change in volume caused by pressure causes the acceleration. So it is pressure manipulation that's causing the acceleration. Pressure is a force. But Blurths don't like that phrase because they say, well, pressure is force over area. It's not just force. Well, that might be the way to describe it, but we can demonstrate acceleration by pressure. And we do it with the Cartesian diver. So when you squeeze the bottle and it goes down, and then let go of it and it goes up, you're causing the acceleration, and it is pressure that's doing it. And again, it's another relative density proof that is the reason, that is really the direction. It is not really up and down. It's more dense and less dense. And you can manipulate it and prove it.
Do you think pressure is a pressure over an area?
No, I'm saying that that's what they come back with, and they use it as a correction and say, you don't understand what pressure is.
If pressure is a force, then pressure is a pressure over an area. That's just...
Yeah, but they don't accept that the reason why the egg accelerated was because there was a force called pressure acting on the egg, pushing it in the direction that the density change caused. They think that it was buoyancy, right, caused by gravity pulling on the medium.
I think it's a good time to start the video.
I just want to check before you do if Brian had anything to add, because he's joined at a particularly, a point that he might want to tail into.
Yeah, he was listening.
Yeah, I just came in. Are you talking about structural support?
Kind
Get
of.
him, Brian. Get him.
Kind of.
No, we're definitely not talking about structural support. No.
Talking about pressure.
What are you talking about? Sorry, Nathan, go on.
Talking about pressure.
And when you say pressure, the pressure just in general, or what specific? Like pressure in what way?
I was just saying that me and you had a conversation at one point where you were describing it as pressure manipulation. You were describing the mechanical process what was it that acted on the egg? And you'd said it was pressure manipulation. I think you'd heard it from somebody else that was pushing it. And you'd presented it to me, and I was like disagreeing with you at the time. But like since then, I've realized that it is actually the pressure that's causing the acceleration, and we can prove it with a Cartesian diver. If you vary the pressure, the Cartesian diver will accelerate. If you squeeze it and make more pressure, he'll drop. If you let go of it and reduce the pressure, he'll accelerate up. We call it up and down, but really the direction is more dense and less dense relative to the medium.
Well, what I like, as you know, I term it I describe the effect as structural support. But as it like, I know that's controversial here, but it's just the most intuitive way to describe it. It's like with the
What, incorrectly? The most intuitive way can't be incorrect.
It's just the medium.
If you look at objects that are weighed in a vacuum, they weigh more. That means there is a buoyant effect being given to objects in air, because air is constantly moving in all directions, and it has a density of some kind. So there is a buoyant effect being given to it, to an object in air. The same way as there is a buoyant effect being given to an object in water. And
Yeah, but
other
the problem
things.
with that phrase, though, if you describe it as a buoyant effect, that's just basically using their words to describe gravity, right? But what we should actually describe that as, what we should say is the object in the vacuum weighs more, because the minute you put a medium in, and the medium has got it's got matter in it, it's got I don't want to use the word mass because I know someone's going to say what's mass, but the medium has got matter in it which acts on the egg. So like, because the matter, the thing in question,
density.
You're right. It gets less dense. So it's not that it's getting a buoyant effect. It's just that the object's getting less dense because the medium's acting on it.
Hey,
The medium has a density too. It's
Let me just ask
acting
Brian
as well.
something. So before you go on, Brian, I've just spent the last half an hour decrying this, but on the basis that we have no positive assertion to need to make. So with 100 odd people watching, please share the show. Welcome. If you've just joined us, you've probably only joined because someone shared the show. Please share the show if you haven't done so already. Tell me how this is put into practical application or debate with regards to the nature of Earth, Brian, before you get into the wrangle-dangle.
As in, how would I put it into? Well, the point is that objects, right, even in air, weigh less. That means they have less downward vector force.
That's a statement.
Even in air.
Okay, yeah.
Right.
Okay, that might be true. I'm not disagreeing or agreeing.
So,
hold on.
define your question, please.
How is that useful?
Because number one, it completely disproves the heliocentric model. Just that one demonstration.
Perfect. Yeah, we got that down pegged just before you got here. Thanks to Duncan. And number two?
Yeah, but number two, how is it useful? Because you're able to actually give somebody an explanation. You're able to show a demonstration to somebody who doesn't know anything about this kind of stuff and just thinks gravity is real and it's a force and all this other stuff. You're able to show somebody or show an audience that this demonstration proves that is not true.
That's the same as number one.
Well, I mean, if you want to not make any claims about it, you can. I don't have to make.
I'm sorry to keep interrupting you, Brian. It's just we've done this for about 45 minutes, so it's not your fault that I'm just constantly interrupting you. I'm really sorry. What's it?
About the demonstrate. Are you asking me specifically about me using the term structural support?
No, I'm asking about the practical application and how this will have a bearing on my life. If there wasn't a demonstration being made, be it the increase in weight in a vacuum, or the claim of the opposite, or the relative density disequilibrium of an egg in an experiment to show that it's relative to the medium and the density thereof. Upon doing that, where's it practically useful for me? Now, given that number one and number two that you've given me so far, I'm sorry to give you a preamble after giving you the question, but given that number one and number two are both just it debunks gravity, once that's been achieved, where's there a use? Why are we doing this?
Because we want to know as much as we can why things do what they do.
Okay. So just out of interest, I gave the comparison before you got here, so it's not unreasonable to ask you as I asked everybody else. The relative density disequilibrium discussion that we're having, if you juxtapose that with the question of why the sky is blue, but bear in mind that there is no contentious claim from the globe side that necessitates the sky to be blue. for part of their claim to work. Would you say that, given that it's not contentious on the globe side, and it's still just a mystery in the same way as the second order effect of entropy, it's just a mystery until you explain it. But once you have, it becomes a folly. And the sky, nobody's arguing about why it's blue, because it doesn't necessitate a globe claim to keep you on the side of a spinning water ball. Therefore, no one's got any real interest in it.
Well, it's a lot more difficult. Well, I understand your question, right? We're not arguing about why the sky is blue, because the sky being blue is not a globe claim that we get thrown at us all the time.
Precisely.
But we also can't find that out as easily. It's a lot easier to find out, at least up to a point, why things do what they do, even if we can't get to the actual cause, which is maybe something to do with entropy. We can find out more.
I disagree.
So we can.
No. You said it's not. It's too difficult to find out what the sky is blue. No, I postulate that given that I spent 18 months listening to Arwin and Sleeping Warrior argue back and forth about this, I've seen dozens and dozens of people trying to claim they've got experiments in various different aspects of various different claims. Some outlandish, like the Earth moving up or spinning. Some not so, in the case of just explaining relative density disequilibrium with no positive assertion to need backing when that's done. But I don't agree that period of time, which is lengthy, to get to the point where I can summarize it with just a few short words, has any practical use. I just don't see that was needed or easy, and it would have been just as arduous to explain why the sky was blue. And there's a good chance that had that have been in the forefront of our mind because globers needed it to be, because they needed the false dichotomy to argue against us with, then we'd be all talking about why the sky was blue and have dedicated our time to it. The only reason we have, and for what? That's what I'm getting at. For what? All of the arguments between Arwin and Sleeping Warrior were only useful to debunk the globe's necessity to have a force holding them to a spinning water ball. Now that's over. I don't know why we're even here. It seems a bit suspicious that Dell's suddenly talking about upward rising Earth bringing the positive assertion to our doorstep as flat earthers. Not that I'm claiming anything nefarious from Dell, I just think he's making an outlandish claim about Earth moving, and it's equally as outlandish as the Earth spinning. Well, isn't that useful for the people who necessitate a force holding them to a ball?
I think the bit that we're missing here is that hang on. The bit that we're missing is that this topic about the egg and the density of the object and the medium and all that because that's not part of their narrative, it really excludes them from it because it's got nothing to do with them. They believe that the egg moves because of gravity and buoyancy, right? One's acting on the medium, one's acting on the egg, and so on. But when we point out that it's got nothing to do with that and it's actually something else, it's just the relationship between the medium and the object, then they're excluded from it. So like the benefit of talking about it is really within our own circles so that people that are in our own circles can expand their own mind and go, well, why does it do that? And then you explain to them what, and then they go, oh, right, yeah. So it's beneficial for our own side to answer those awkward questions that they don't really know the answer to. Like the guy that was asking about why is it always up and down? Why is it always down and not laterally? And then we explain how it is laterally. But you hadn't thought about it properly. Yeah, it's beneficial to expand our knowledge.
I agree. This is why, as I said earlier, I'm not going to stop you guys from giving concise, detailed explanations that do demonstrate that we do understand this, do have a contrapositive claim to make if we chose to do so, and we could even back that claim that isn't necessary with scientific validity. I don't disagree with it. I allow it. I'm not saying it's like my permission is granted for you to talk about this. I'm not saying it in that way. I'm just saying it is still useful for you, the audience, who are listening to this and hopefully absorbing some of the information, to understand everything that's been gone through, all of the arguments relative to disequilibrium, relative density disequilibrium, all of the debunkings of pseudo-force space and Newtonian mass attracting mass. They're all useful, but there does come a point where my point takes precedent over all of it. This is folly for us. Haven't we got better things to do? Can we move on to why the sky is blue now? If we're just going to look at things that don't really serve us in practical application or debate, can we just move on to why the sky's blue? I'm more interested in that than why some things move down, some things move up, some things remain neutral. As interesting as it is, I'm lying. It's not. It's not in the slightest been interesting to me because I don't have a positive claim to defend. I don't need it to be interesting.
We can move on to the video.
Hang on.
Oh, I thought you
Sound-
wanted.
This is too. It's gone past that point now. 10th. I'm really sorry. We'll do the video tomorrow. Fortunately, I haven't asked people to go and tell them that we've responded to it yet. But with 5 minutes left on the live show, it's probably the chances that we're going to do that tomorrow.
It's not a response video. It's an educational video, and so we save it for tomorrow. Then
Okay.
Or you could extend the live show.
Or
We
we
can't
might
do
extend
it
the
on a
live
late
show. We
show?
might indeed. If we can get over 125 people watching, there's 117 people watching now. It's not very much to get people to get us over 120. And let's say 130.
Please share the show.
Please share the show. Shout out to Vlad on Flat Earth, who super chat saying, "Happy belated birthday to my wife Paula." Oh, my wife's called Paula too. I love you. Thanks, Nathan. Love to Paulas in general. You're all getting love today if your name's Paula. Shout out to you,
Or if you
Vlad.
don't
Thanks
share-
for the super chat.
if you don't share in the next 30 minutes, I gotta go. So then save it for tomorrow.
Okay. Well, either way, I just think this is too hot a topic to drop. Hot in the respect that I want to hammer this point that I'm making home more than anybody else who wants to interrupt me, which is to say that once you understand the arguments, I'm not saying don't learn the arguments. I'm not saying don't figure out what relative density is. I'm not saying don't look into upward rising Earth or spinning Earth or debunking Coriolis effect. I'm not saying any of those things. What I am saying is, once you understand how the positive claim on the globe side fails, recognize that you don't have any need to investigate any further unless you find a practical application for it. Unless you find it useful, in other words. Beyond that, it's a folly. If you don't know what a folly is, look it up.
But it's been used practically forever, since Archimedes' time. They've used density and the differentials between density in engineering and other things. So it's not as if there's no practical use for it. Like this knowledge has helped them construct things and do things and float boats. Like
I'm not disputing that, but I'm not saying it doesn't have a practical application. But in the same way, if we discuss the tensile strength of bridge structures and their steels, would that be useful to us now with the debate about the nature of Earth? I think not. Oh, but if the globe had a positive claim about tensile strength, then you can be damn sure we'd be arguing our strawman position that we didn't need to be making defence of. It's like, what the hell? I need to illustrate this. Sorry, Brian. Go ahead.
You just contradicted yourself, Nathan, when you said the nature of Earth. That is what we're trying to figure out. The nature of things, how it works. Because we were fed a narrative that wasn't true.
Yeah, but now we know. So I'm saying, beyond having an outrageous claim that Earth's rising up to necessitate a force of down always being effect, which isn't true, we don't have anything further to do with this. If someone comes up and says, well, why is all things going down? Beyond me saying they don't. Well, how do you explain it? Explain what? It. What's it? All things going down. They don't. That's it. That's the end of the discussion for me. And when they're like, well, I need to understand why all things tend to the ground. I'll say it one more time. They don't.
Okay, but what about when you say helium balloon, right? And they say, oh, that's buoyancy caused by gravity. That's a completely false statement from that person.
I say
buoyancy has nothing to do with their belief.
I say what? Gas go down, go boom boom. The pools of the gases forcing the helium balloon up. I just debunked their overcome of my statement. And their overcome is to reassert their original position that I've already overcome. So who cares? I still don't have to make any claims about relative density disequilibrium or explain it in any way, shape, or form. It's not my burden. I'm a lazy man. I don't want to have these arguments. Once I've debunked gravity, I couldn't care less anymore. Yeah, there might be something in a future job that's really useful for me to know this, but it seems unlikely. I've got to be honest.
Okay, I understand your position. You're just going to just purely debunk their position and not give them anything in any way, shape, or form of an explanation that you don't feel you have to give.
Why should I?
Then can't argue with you.
Why should I? Why is the onus on me? Why is it suddenly my burden? Am I being paid to investigate this for them on their behalf because they've suddenly lost their paradigm that had kept them to the side of a ball? Oh well, you're not on the side of a ball. Do you understand and recognise that? Are you going to thank me for telling you? And no, you just want an alternative so you can debunk that. Sod that.
People want answers, Nathan.
but
Nathan,
that's what I'm getting to. What about very quickly? Sorry, Chocolate. What about Eleanor and Clover? What about them? You're going to want to be able to answer some of their questions. You won't be able, as a father. I don't think you're going to be able to go, I don't know, to everything with them, because that's not going to be a debate situation.
That's a totally unreasonable juxtaposition. You're juxtaposing, if it came to educating my daughters on tensile strengths of the materials used in bridges, then that might be a lesson that they get one day. But it isn't going to be related to the subject matter of the nature of Earth. It isn't going to be necessarily in a geography lesson. You know what I'm saying? In other words, just because it is practically applied in the world that we live in, doesn't mean it has any point in our discussion. And it's not coming up when it comes to the nature of the sky being blue, because that isn't a contrapositive that's needed to be defended and much easier to have us having a position on to argue against.
Well, if you're just, you're talking purely within the arena. What practical use have you got for telling someone about relative density within the arena?
Yes.
At this stage, I can understand. Fair enough, I can understand that. But it is good to have some answer if there is an answer there that is provable.
Yeah, I'm saying absolutely. Let me just agree.
Yeah.
Absolutely correct. Number one, the only way you can get to the same attitude that I'm taking is to say you understand all the arguments inside out, back to front. You know all of the pseudo force space arguments. You know all the mass attracting mass arguments. You know all of the incoherent dielectric acceleration arguments and the ether arguments and the upward acceleration Earth arguments. Once you've got all of that under your belt, you then get to a point you go, wow, that was a lot of education for no benefit beyond understanding more than I already did, which was implicit, that we're not held to the side of a spinning water ball. What's that? You still want me to argue about it? You're still demanding that I come up with explanations for you? No, I life's too short. No, I'm not doing it. What's that? You still need an explanation for all things going down? Just do it a fourth time. They don't.
I get you, Nathan. I get you. It's almost like I get you, Nathan. It's almost like the Globers. They come to us like the students, and it's almost like they don't. They're trying to. It's almost like they're trying to do a gotcha question, but we need to waste our time with it because it's already all been debunked. I mean,
exactly.
Are you coming to me because you want to learn?
And how do they sucker you into that? I'm just here to learn. What's your alternative position? You're here to learn? Oh, is this a course I'm offering? Pay me. Then you'll have some gratitude for the information. Then it won't just be you trying to contradict the information. If you're paying for it, you'll be grateful for it. Like all the numpties that pay out thousands to universities to learn about astronomy or astrophysics. Yeah, well, they take it all as read because it's printed in the books that they're paid for. Oh, okay, you want my information? Give me money for it. Because that's all you value.
Nathan, I don't think
that's all they value.
I don't think you should refer to yourself as a lazy man. What you're doing is quite obvious. They are the lazy one. Let me explain. You just debunked something that was a lie. Now they want to know what it is. You say, have at it, come back with me with your research. But you help them get rid of a lie in their life. They're the lazy ones wanting you to do what they need to do next. So reverse it, please.
Yeah, maybe it's that just down to them. Well, if you're going to debunk it because you've done all this great research to prove how my paradigm that's in every library and taught in schools is wrong, then you've got to give me an alternative. No, I don't. I'm not under any obligation to do so.
I don't.
The other way to look at this,
where did I sign the contract that said I had to give you a replacement after your paradigm has been destroyed? Where did I sign that contract?
I don't mind. I'll draw up a new one with you, Chocolate. It's going to cost you, though.
The other way to view this, the other way to view this requirement or the request to provide an alternative, let's just suppose you get arrested for murder and the police find a body. You're the most important suspect. They think that you've done it. And then you give your alibi and they go away and they go, oh, yeah, it couldn't have been him. We were wrong. Do you then have to prove who did do it? Or do you just have to say to the police, fuck off? And of course, that's the answer. You don't have to provide who did it. You just have to prove that you did not. And you've got your alibi. Who cares? It's not your job, is it? It's their job to prove.
Yeah, but they keep constantly putting the burden onto us because they still have a positive claim to defend that's failed. So if you can constantly get your opponent to offer alternative views for you to debunk, then you get further and further away from the fact that their position is untenable. Because you're listening to how the opponent's position's untenable when they don't even need to hold a position on it. Like Anthony says, why do you have an opinion on who killed him then? You weren't there, you were in a different state, you were in jail, locked up, you couldn't possibly have done it. Why are you offering me your alternative view? I'm a detective on the case. Don't need you to give me your alternative view. Oh, what? It's much more useful if you are the murder suspect to constantly push blame onto other people around you. Yeah, that's what's going on here. The culprits constantly want to push out the assertion onto other people to defend, because then they don't have to defend their murder rap that they've found themselves having to defend. Well, you didn't commit the murder, you don't have to defend it. You didn't claim that we're stuck to the side of a spinning water ball and therefore need a force to keep us there. But once you don't have that force requirement, there's nothing to defend. You don't need to find it out unless you're so inclined. If you're studying to find out in an engineering capacity how relative density disequilibrium is useful, practically applied for bloody centuries, then fine, go for it. But me? Is it useful to me? It might be useful in a rudimentary lesson from one of my kids. Sod all to do with the nature of Earth other than the practical applications that you might have in engineering. Yes, there's scientific validity to it that's come from the nature of Earth and what we observe as phenomena. Again, does it affect me? Does it affect this debate? Does it affect the general nature of the world that I'm standing on? This is flat Earth debate. The answer is a very strong no. What's that? I need an explanation for why all things go to the down. No, let's do it for a fifth time. They don't.
And once they reach that point of they don't, yeah, we're good. Because your claim was originally they do. So once we reach they don't, we're done here. Thanks.
Yeah, but my son will turn around and say, well, if you're not going to give me any answers, you expect me to just say, I don't know about everything? You have to have an answer if it's not what it is.
Your son's young. He hasn't learned what humility is.
I agree.
Yeah. I don't
also-
know why the sky is blue. Did I know when I was 12 or 13 and they told me about scattering? Oh, yeah, I thought I knew all about it. What a smarty pants I was. Now I don't. This whole experience is entirely humbling for most people.
No, they told me why the sky's blue when I was younger. They said because the sun reflects off
Not
the blue
again.
water and it comes up in the sky and the sky's blue. That's what I was told.
By your mum and dad, but they weren't giving you the heliocentric rhetoric for the scattering. My point is, I thought I knew, now I don't. That's a humbling experience. Most people don't want that. And your son's saying, I'm not going to be humbled. Currently I know, and if I'm just going to have to accept that I don't know as an alternative, then I'm not prepared to accept that. Okay? Well, it's hard. You're right. He's right. A lot of people get to the point where they have to accept that they just don't know, and they can't do it. That's why we end up with a load of bloody flat earth gurus.
Ooh, hey guys, I was at Olive Garden yesterday. Not to swear away. And there was a family with a guy that had on a NASA shirt. Because, where I'm at, NASA is right there. This guy, I got to see the pictures of all the Globers and the anti-flat earthers that came on your show. This guy looked like one of them. He was blonde haired. He had he had beady eyes. They were close to his nose, like his head was too big for his eyes. Oh man, I didn't want to dare take my phone and take a picture of it and post it up there, but he looks just like somebody that you put on your little skits in the background on your screen when you're doing the show. And I didn't want to approach him either. I was with my family and my wife, she would have definitely thrown a plate at me. But I think he was one of them. I gotta scroll through the shows to see who you had on the show.
I think it's a perfectly reasonable stereotyping fallacy to say that they're all hamster-faced dweebs.
No,
If your wife,
not all
if your
of them.
wife threw a
Not
plate
all
at
of them.
you, if your wife threw a plate at you, your face would be in disequilibrium.
Yep. But I remained silent. I just kind of like looked at him. I was like, this guy looks familiar.
Well, it was
Because you'll dick out an argument.
unexpected
I didn't want to. See, I didn't want to, but I wish I had on the shirt that had like the old, the NASA anti-NASA type of thing. So he could have maybe struck up a comment. If I was by myself or my fellas, I would have definitely struck a conversation up. But I don't like to do that around her and the children because she'd be like, "Oh my God, could you not?"
Alrighty then. With that, I'm going to say if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering streams, then stay tuned as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, though, if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. Another massive thank you to all of you. Smashed the super chat, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, joined as a member, hit me up on PayPal and all that good stuff. Another massive thank you to today's Discord and G Plus panels for making today's live show possible. Stay tuned if you're watching on an after show. I've been Nathan Oakley and I will see you all in the next video.
And all objects are subject to it in any medium, it is true. That is the position. Then if you manipulate the pressure of the medium and it causes an acceleration, like a Cartesian diver, perhaps, it's not about the structural support. It's just the medium itself is creating pressure. It's causing pressure around it. That's what it is. So what you perceive as structural support, it is actually the effect of the medium acting on the matter.
No, Neil, don't worry about it.
The pressure becomes the structural support.
You should have asked Adam, Neil. You should have asked Adam. You tell me, Adam, what structure gas has, because Adam doesn't know.
Say that again, mate. Because I just walked away to a patient.
I told Neil he should have asked you when you asked him what structure does gas have. He should have asked you. I don't know, Adam. You tell me, because you don't know either, Adam.
You can't describe gases as having structure when they're unbonded. How can you describe them as having structure?
You can't describe them in any way because you can't see them.
Oh my God! So we yeah. But if you can
Not
take,
with
if you're
certainty.
going to take
Not with
any
certainty.
level
We've
of
been down
Hold
this
on,
road
Brian.
before. Not
Hold on,
with certainty.
hold on, Brian. Go ahead, Adam.
you can do that, can't you? And be pseudo-intellectual. Take the conversation to that point of, oh, you can't see it, so we know nothing, so you can't make any claim, even though we've got lots of other things that would back up that minus being able to see it.
That sounded just like Brian, just like him.
So that you get a draw. Fine. Okay. Nobody knows fuck all. It's a draw.
No swearing, please.
No, that's not the position. The truth is that we can't see gas. So we can't say what structure it does or does not have.
It doesn't
That's the honest position. That's the honest position, Adam.
Exactly. So you've gone to retardia.
I haven't gone to retardia.
You have, because
I'm just being honest.
By that sense, what we could have is Fraggle Rock doozers are the thing. They're very small because I can't see them, but it's them that hold things up and pull them down when I drop them. Because I can't see it, so it could be anything.
No,
so I can't use any other knowledge.
If you want to straw man it, you can.
No, it's not, because I'm addressing it. Just as Tony tried to mention.
You're bringing in Fraggle Rock doozers. Come on.
Yeah,
see, that's
because
not
that's
not
just
an
as
honest.
valid as claiming this structural support that you can't see, and the reason structural support's valid is because you can't see it. So the point I make is,
you're straw manning me now.
No, I'm not. You're still interrupted.
I'll leave.
Hold on, Brian. Just we're never going to hear it all clearly. Just let him get to the end. Go ahead, Adam.
The point I'm making is, as Tony pointed out earlier, Brownian motion. There are lots of other things that can make us help us make a distinguishment as to whether there is a structural support or a gas behavior as we understand it when we have gas. Yeah, admittedly, you can't see it. So I suppose a visual confirmation you have to call a draw. But as for other things that would help you determine whether there's structural support or gas behavior, you could probably use them to make the distinguishment.
Now, I never claimed gas had structure. I used the term structural support as a way of describing the effects as a whole, right? Now, I can't claim that gas has structure because I can't prove that it has.
Yeah, but you've got people.
Hang on. So that was a straw man. Now,
people following you.
Hold on, Adam. Let's just serious response. Hold on. I can't hear either of you. Go ahead, Brian.
Thank you, Nathan. I also can't claim that it doesn't have, because I can't prove that either. So I don't claim either way. I just use the term structural support as a way of describing the effects as a whole.
As I said earlier, then I'm going to invoke doozers on Fraggle Rock because I can't prove them either, but I'd like to put them into the mix.
Well, if you want, you can, but that's only assassinating the description.
No, you've made shit up. You've tried to put it into the category of gas behavior. I've done another thing, done the same. The point I'm making to you, there's people out there like Neil that believe in structural support now because of you. Did you not hear him earlier? That makes sense to me. It's brilliant. Even though you don't even, you disown that as a statement with regards to gas, this repetition is now getting out there. And of all the people that goes on about, oh, Bob Nodell said this, that, the other, you're pimping something that you won't even back up yourself now, yet you've got followers.
I'm not pimping something I won't back up myself.
You've got followers, though.
Neil
now believes in
structural support. That is not what I'm doing at all.
No, but the effect of what you've done is Neil believes in
Hold on, Adam.
structure.
Hold on, Adam. Go ahead, Brian.
All right. Thank you, Nathan. I can't back up if gas has structure or not because I can't see it. I can't prove it. You're claiming it doesn't.
You've said that 5 times. What about Neil's...
I'm sorry, am I not allowed to finish?
No, we've made that point. What about Neil?
You state that I'm going around punting something dishonestly, and then you make a point in making sure that I can't reply.
Yep, that's exactly what we said. Fair enough. But the point still stands. Neil's now.
Which one of us claimed? Which one of us claimed?
And there's no bishop. Because the bishop.
Which one of us two claimed something about gas? Me or you?
Neither. But let's deal with Neil and your.
No, not neither. You claimed it didn't have structure. That's your positive claim. I didn't make a positive claim about gas.
You didn't claim it.
I use the term I use as.
This is the point. You're prepared to bin all knowledge to stick with that.
I'm not binning all knowledge. I'm just being completely honest.
You're not being honest. You're being deceptive.
There's nothing wrong with how we describe gas behaving. There's nothing wrong with how we describe gas behaving.
Structural support.
There is nothing wrong with how we describe gas behaving.
It's confusing, Brian.
Hang on.
There is something wrong with it. There is something wrong with it because there is already a phraseology.
But hang on. I just said there's nothing wrong with how we describe gas behaving. I didn't add that. I'm talking about how it's generally described. That's what I'm talking about. Not talking about structural support.
Right. We've had this discussion before, so there's no point going. The point I'm making is now this, and you're the biggest exponent to us. You're the ones that makes us do this to other sections of the community. Yeah, we must address this. Neil, this afternoon, has now become a member of the Church of Structural Support. He just admitted it makes the most sense to him because of the way you've described it. Now, you may not believe it, but do you realise that as you describe things like this, it's having an impact on other people, and Neil now thinks gas has structural support?
I never said anything about gas.
Shut up, Neil.
That's not what he thinks. That's not the case at all.
Adam, you brought gas. Hold on. You just keep interrupting Brian, so I'm going to be a simp here. I never said anything about gas.
Neil, can you just accept that we're talking about you? Neil, hold on. I just need to. Neil, can you butt out of this conversation about you, please? Thank you.
So again, sorry.
I said, Neil, can you butt out of this conversation about you? It's very rude.
Exactly.
So, hold on
That's
a
what I was
the
saying.
reason why
Neil, shut up.
Go on, John.
I'm confused now. No one thinks that gas has structural support. Is that what the claim is now?
No, there wasn't a claim in the first place, John. The point was the term structural support was a way of describing the effects as a whole. It wasn't making any singular claim about any medium. It was talking about a way of describing it.
No,
I was very clear. I've been bang on. I've been very, very clear. I can't, and I say this again, like I said earlier, and I said, God done, whenever it was, the last time we had this, and every time, I can't claim that gas is structure. But I can show that objects weigh more in a vacuum.
Why use the term structural support then if you don't claim that, but actually that's what people hear and that's what they interpret you mean? When you say it, Neil put some money in the Church of Structural Support's coffer box and he's a full paid up member, even though you as the high priest doesn't believe it.
Adam, you're being a plum.
Neil, can you shut up?
Hang on. hang on, Neil. Sorry, 1 second. It's not about belief, Adam. You have a belief that gas does not have structure, and that's why you make that claim. But you can only hold that as a belief. I didn't
No,
make
that's
any
not
claim
true.
about
That's not
I
true.
made no claim to
Hold on, no, everyone stop, everyone stop, everyone
never
stop.
made any
Hold on,
nonsense.
Brian, I'm really sorry to interrupt you because you're halfway through. But you've thrown that out there. 2 people have tried to challenge it. I'm going to go with Adam because he was doing it. John, if you want to back him up, fine. But you're going to have to just accept that they want to challenge that. You can't just let it hang out there. Sorry. Go ahead, Adam.
I'll let John address it because I've said it twice, but this is about gas behavior. Anybody that uses a term that in of itself has an implication in mechanics, which is why we're having a protestation against the phrase, you use the term, that's your claim, that the second you do, I don't have to claim gas behavior. The second you've used the term structural support, it has an implication. You've given a description, not me. I don't have to poo-poo it by saying no, gas behaves as gas behaves. You've said the structural support in gas, and that's where I have
never said that. That's a total straw man. Completely not a straw man. You said that the total straw man, you claimed there was no structure in gas, and I pulled you on it because it's not honest.
Why did I say
that's what happened.
Stop. Hold on. Go ahead, John.
Structure is something you can see. It is a physical thing that supports another physical thing. That is structure.
Yeah, we had this before.
Hold
on. So air can't support something?
No. Is that structure? No. Uh-oh. Now you're in trouble because you've said
I want Brian. Brian. Hold on. Everyone stop. Everyone stop. Stop.
You're coming in here.
Go ahead, Brian. You laughed at that. You scoffed at that. So go ahead. You scoffed.
Yeah, because John, there's 2 problems. Number one, Neil just pointed out something to John there that completely took his point apart. Secondly, John is thinking, because he's been given the impression from Adam, it seems, that I'm claiming the gas has structure. I'm not making positive claims about it. Adam.
Okay, let's just stop right there. Stop right there, Brian. Hold on, Brian. You did it on this show, and I'll quote back what you said. It's just a way of describing it.
No, not that. All the effects of relative density.
Right, but
all the effects.
That would include. Stop. Hold on 1 second. Hold on. But that would include air.
Yeah,
That's
describing
Adam's
it,
point.
not explaining it.
Yeah, but
not explaining it.
Okay. Adam's point is that if you're going to say, well, it's good to explain it. I can't remember the term you used when you said it's like the most concise explanation or something like that, and Adam piped up immediately. You're like, well, not if it's wrong. If it doesn't apply to air, it's not correct. That's Adam's point. But you're saying, well, I'm not using that. That's a total straw man. Yeah, you are. You're saying it's a good way to explain it with support, structural support. Those are all words.
I said describe it. I said describe it, and the word I used was intuitive. That's the word you heard. And that's
intuitive, right?
Because it's intuitive.
I would like to point something out. Neil said support, but he didn't put structural in that. Gas can support something.
You were claiming
that. Don't interrupt me. If you have enough pressure applied with gas, it can support something aloft. I didn't say structure
and that's
all.
what Brian is trying to describe.
Hold on, Chocolate.
He's not.
Everyone's rumpusing John. Can I just hear? I can't hear. I'm not hearing the end of the statements. John, go ahead.
Structure was not mentioned in any description I just give. Now tell me, how does saying structural support of gas within the description I just gave add to the description of what's actually happening in any way?
What do you mean, John?
If you apply enough pressure to gas, you can hold something aloft and support it in air. Where does adding the term structure to that help it in any way?
It's just an intuitive term that people like.
Wrong.
That describes as a way of describing all the effects as a whole. That's what it is.
But it doesn't.
That's what the point of it is.
It doesn't.
Now, each one of I can't see. Go on, Chuck.
I was going to say, if give it.
I agree. Probably on Tuesday, Chocolate, but we'll see when we get there.
Kind of like a structure. Shit.
Say it again, Chocolate.
One more time.
I'm sorry, I'm driving through a shitty place. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. I was just saying, like John just said, if given enough pressure, you can use air to support something, right? Kind of
Why
like.
didn't you say structure?
Say again.
Why didn't you say structure in that?
Yeah,
I
he
was just
didn't say
getting
that.
to it. Kind of like a structure,
No, no.
right?
You didn't. But when
Yeah,
you described
but
what's actually happening, you did not say structure. Why not?
I
No,
know,
he used
I
your
know I
term.
didn't.
He used.
I know I didn't, but that's what Brian is trying to do. He's trying to use it as a description, kind of
Well,
like a structure. If something is
Let-
being held up by air, right? It's kind of like being held up by a structure. He's not
Correct.
saying that gas has a structure, like Adam said that he said. He's not saying that.
Well, cool. Let me do that same thing. You can calculate the differential between eye level and sea level, and you can describe it as Earth curve. There's nothing wrong with that
Not the
by
same
your
thing.
standard.
come
Not the same
on.
thing.
Stop,
Not the
stop,
same thing. 'cause
stop,
we can
stop.
show
Hello.
the demonstration.
Stop.
That's a complete,
Hold on.
complete straw man.
Oh, it's not a complete straw man. It's just a description. It's just the most
Show
concise
us
way
Earth
of
curve.
describing
Come
the.
on,
Show us
Nathan.
Earth
Hello,
curve then.
hello,
Because I can show
hello,
support
hello.
something by air.
Still in the middle of the same sentence. No, John's correct. If you
Yeah, but
describe
that's
the
a false
different
description.
third
though.
attempt. You describe the differential between two flat planes. It's just a really nice way of describing Earth curve. That's all it is.
No, no, not the same thing. That's a
But
false
there's no
analogy.
such thing as Earth curve.
Or
But
false
there
equivalent.
are such things as
Hold on.
structures
Sorry.
that
There's
actually
hold on.
hold
Chocolate.
something
Hello.
else
Hold
up.
on. Let's just address that.
There's a
No such
difference.
thing. Hold on.
Yeah.
Hold on. No such thing as Earth curve. Is there such a thing as a unbonded structure? Chocolate.
Unbonded. Hang on a second. You're making claims about gas that you haven't seen. Unbonded is how it's described. That's also just a description, Nathan. So that's completely wrong to hold chocolate to that. You're describing also. We can't see the gas, so we don't know. It's just described as being that way.
All I
Because
know
how
is I
it-
could
how
go
it
right
behaves.
down the block. And there's a game place where you could go in a room and they could float you up in the air. Okay? Because they're blowing air up and it's holding up a human being. So that pressure is making structure to support the person. End of story.
Right, and there's the trouble, isn't it? Now
There's
you've,
no
you've
structure.
used two phrases that contradict each other. Yeah, to keep this going. Air pressure gives structural support. What's happening with the air pressure? What is pressure, Neil? Is it how many ladders you've got stacked against the container, or is
Is the
it
person being supported?
individual?
Is
Is
the
it-
Adam? Is the person supported by the air? Yes or no?
No, Neil.
No.
Then what is
No.
it being supported by?
Look at the Bernoulli effect.
Nothing is supporting them. There's rebounds, isn't there? Not one air molecule in any form of structure or lattice exists to provide structural support. What you have is quadrillions of collisions. There's no
Okay, Adam.
structure. The thing
Forming
is
a
slipping him
structure.
up there, it's like me booting
No,
you up in the
no
air.
structure.
If I keep
Let
kicking
me-
you, you'll stay up there, won't you? But I don't give you any support, only at the point of contact for a microsecond. Then I go one way, my boot goes one way, and you go the other.
Yeah, but Adam, what you're doing there is just saying, I have this description of how gas behaves, and I'm physicalizing it. You can't physicalize it because you can't see the gas. That was the original point I
You
had you
deny
to.
gas pressure.
I don't deny gas pressure. The point I'm making
you
is that
want to take the argument
no,
to
hang
use
on, I'm going to finish this.
ridiculum
Hang on,
Let
I'm
Brian
going to
you
finish
finish.
this.
can
Hold on.
No,
justify
I'm
the
going to finish
use
Hold
this.
on. Just
I'm trying to get
hold on, because
finished
otherwise we
anyway.
can't hear anything if you're all going to talk through each other. Just let Brian finish. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Neil. He's holding Neil to task to explain something when Neil is only talking about a description, and Adam is acting like he has an absolute definite fact. He doesn't. Adam also only has a description. It's also just a description, Adam. That's all you have. So you can't attack Neil when all you've got is the same thing.
Not at all. Of course I can. I can attack Neil's description and say that that is not commensurate with what we believe it to be happening. While we can demonstrate it's happening, to
Believe it.
imply that there's some form of structural support in there
No,
yeah, is the point of
you implied there
contention.
wasn't. That's the difference.
That's the point of
You
contention.
made the positive
But
claim.
to use that, come on, I'll let you speak. To use that phrase is the issue because it has, in of itself, it is a claim.
The whole
Okay,
point
structure
of the
and
term.
support. Which one is a noun? Which one is a verb? Structure and support. Let's break that down.
No, we don't need to break it down. We know what structure means. We were through this in the past. It's not as if we've never looked into what the word structure means within this conversation. The term structural support, the reason people like it is because it is intuitive. Intuitive things are not always specific facts. There are ways of describing things that people can understand. The minutiae of it
That's
can
the
be
point. That's my point of contention to you. That you say it's intuitive, and yet I listen to Neil describe it, and it sounds like he doesn't know how gas behaves. So it might be intuitive for you to understand it, but it's also very misleading and and from a point of definitions, wholly incorrect.
Yeah, he's right.
Let's just say we go on. Okay, okay. Let's just work off the premise that lots of little tiny gas particles, when you use the atomic model, right, are all moving around, right, independently, right, and the more of them we have, and the more heat we add, there's more pressure to them. They're moving around faster in all vectors, right? Now, if you have 1,000 little tiny flies that fly underneath you and hold you up, right? You may not want to describe that as a structure because each one of them are not attached to each other, right? But as a way of describing the effects as a whole within all mediums, structural support, the reason it's intuitive is because you have liquids and solids as two of the mediums. So you have three mediums. You have gases, liquids, and solids. So you have liquids and solids, which do have structure. And the term structural support, right, without making claims, because none of us have ever I never made a claim that gas had structure, right? It's just an intuitive way for people to understand, because they can see that air does hold things up. That does happen. It doesn't mean that the air is all one big solid structure. It's just
But it's confusing, though, Brian. We have phraseology that already describes it. Like one word, collisions. So if you were to change the word structure for the word collision instead of
that's not going to work with liquids and solids, though, Anthony. That's the point. It's not going to work with liquids. What you just said won't work with liquids and solids.
Of course it does. That was what the egg showed in the medium test, right? What was it that caused the egg to accelerate? It was the collisions from the underside, from the additional mass that was put in underneath it, right?
Well, that's not what I would say. I would say that you added more structure to the liquid, which
right.
because
liquid,
the more density
liquid
was
is
down,
structure, though,
there was
right?
more density underneath, so it rose the egg. More structure.
Right, but liquid is a structure, right?
No.
Liquid is described as having structure.
No.
Yeah.
Liquid molecules are able to freely flow over each other. There is no structure. The second they come into contact in any shear force, any connection to the other molecule moves. Yeah, they are free flowing within the containment over each other. Different to gases, but they are free flowing. There is no support, no structure to the individual water molecules. Yeah.
No, I agree. I'm just trying.
But yet I could float in water, right?
I was just trying to use language that Brian is relating to, so I could make my point. Because my next question was, if he accepts that water's got a structure, then you can't accept that gas has got a structure, correct?
But I didn't claim that gas had structure.
No, but Neil now thinks it does, though.
Support because it's intuitive, Anthony. How many times do I need to explain this?
But when you say it's intuitive, it's confusing because there's already terminology that fits the scenario perfectly, and it doesn't cause confusion.
Well, if you have a parachute and you're going down through air, there is something stopping you from falling fast. The air that's getting trapped within the parachute. So there's something there, right? The same way as a helium balloon goes up because the structure not the structure, but the density of the air around it.
So what is the parachute doing?
This is how it's described. The density of the air around it is displacing the helium balloon up to it. That's how it's described.
Brian, answer me honestly.
The visual effects.
Brian, just forgive me. Answer me honestly. What is the parachute doing? Is it A, collecting more collisions because of the surface area is bigger, or is it B, is it increasing structural support in some way?
It's going down through a medium that has density. That's what it's doing.
Right, that wasn't an option. Let me say the options again. A,
because
collecting more
your question was
collisions.
your question was either you murdered the person or you murdered the person. So
it's collecting density. It's collecting density, right? So
stop.
The parachute compresses the air within it more.
Just Brian, please.
Enhancing the density.
I asked you an A or a B, and I got a C. Let me re-ask again. There's no C in this. It's just A or B. And if you don't agree that A or B is accurate, then you're going to have to argue with Adam because it's not going to work. But is the parachute, is it A, collecting more collisions because of the surface area? Or B, is it adding structural support in some way?
It's based on
I can't answer to any of those.
Hold on,
okay,
you have a
Adam,
collision?
Because number one,
Adam, can you answer then?
I don't know. I only know how it's described.
Adam, can you answer for us then? What's the parachute
doing?
doing?
Adam can only give you a description. He can't give us
friction.
It's
not collecting friction.
You're asking me.
Yeah, it is air friction.
No, it isn't.
Yeah, it is.
There's no
It isn't increasing the amount of collisions on the underside of the parachute by making the surface area bigger. That's what it's doing.
You keep saying
describe it as air resistance.
So it's maximizing the friction, the air resistance.
That's descriptive.
So is it
it's not describing what's actually happening, though.
It's descriptive. It's not describing it. Yeah, it is.
It's not describing the mechanical process that's actually happening. Like Brownian motion, guys. That's what you got. For those that think structural support is a thing, go and read about Brownian motion and come back and explain how it's wrong. Because that is what's happening.
Friction of air is the resistance of the air getting out of the way. So if you maximize the surface, yet you still have a lot of friction, then all that air wants to get out of the way, but barely can't. It's getting trapped, right? In that open container, which is a parachute, the other way around. Yeah. And then that maximizes the friction versus the total amount of density. So that's how it works. Air friction is a very important factor, and that's also it's even in Newtonian mechanics. They even added that.
Can you have collisions with something that has no structure whatsoever?
Yeah.
How do you do that?
Air response to local air pressure differential. So it's fluid. It can move in any direction.
Answer the question.
But
no, it doesn't.
Aaron, your descriptive explanation, is that A or B? Is it B? Are you saying B?
Well, once again, can you collide with something that has no structure?
It seems like a false dichotomy, so I'm just giving you my answer.
I'm just asking a question. Can you collide with something that has no structure whatsoever?
Can you demonstrate anything that has no structure?
Gas.
No, it does.
Gas doesn't have any structure.
How do you
responds to pressure?
So how do you have
it responds to pressure, so it does have that. And that
you're confusing collisions with structure.
It's not non-existent. Like we don't know anything that doesn't have
collisions that's been described. It's described that all these tiny particles that we can't see are colliding. That's the description. So if you're making that description, Chocolate's point is totally valid, as we talked about before. That means those little tiny particles have a structure, because they wouldn't be in existence as a particle if they didn't. If they're made of matter, they have a structure. So when they're colliding, that's two structures colliding.
And I only used the word collisions because when you were describing the parachute, Tony, you said the collisions. That's the only reason I asked that. So if the parachute is having collisions with the air, which is causing it to slow down, my question is, can you collide with something that has no structure?
Exactly.
I'm just putting it out there.
And the answer is no, but
that's what I was
there
isn't
anything that doesn't have any structure whatsoever.
Well then.
Yeah, I don't know what to say. Like, I mean, even the description that's given, the mainstream description, means that gas has to have a certain amount of structure. Even though none of us are claiming gas has structure, I can't see it. We've been held. We're being held to a straw man.
And
Well,
then,
it's
and then
because
back
of
to
the
the
word
baseline,
structure.
back
It's the nature of
back
the
to the
word
root of the question.
structure and our colloquial approach of that word that makes it confusing.
I mean, I've always understood what Brian was trying to say with this point. It's just people, because they don't like the word structure or structural being used, it's a problem. And I get that. But I mean, as I'm listening to this consistently, and even Neil said, what, air doesn't support things? Yeah, we all know air can support shit, right? I can blow out a candle with the air coming out of my lungs, right? So how can I do any of that if what I'm using isn't colliding with something else?
But it's not
And-
true
and then
though,
this
because
topic-
air.
and this
Hold
topic-
on,
okay.
I want to say this. Sorry, air can technically support something, right? If you stick an object in a tube that's closed off on the other side, the air of it that's still stuck in there is going to prevent that object from moving down. It's definitely giving structure. It's only when the room around that object within the tube is wide enough that the air can actually go past it that it'll go down. But if it's too tight, it doesn't, because air does definitely support. It isn't nothing.
Even in the description of gas pressure, right? The force the gas exerts on the walls of the container. Well, how's it doing that if it has no structure whatsoever?
Yeah, the container has structure, right?
I'm not talking about the container. I'm talking about what's hitting the container.
I think there's a difference
I
between.
mean, if I'm wrong, I'll accept if I'm wrong. I'm just saying, can you collide with something that has no structure?
Yeah,
that's it.
The difference between something having a structure and it affording structural support to other things is very different. Something with a structure can have a collision with something else. It may not, in conflation with other things of its own type, be able to provide structure that's something that it can just as easily have a collision with. I think that's the difference. We're now conflating the term structural support, which was in relation to the medium, to the structure of any individual molecule in terms of it having physicality to interact with other physical things. Two different things.
Yeah, well described. That was my issue too.
But no, not exactly, because Chocolate's pointing out that if you want to describe gas as being tiny particles, let's just say, right, as they're often described, particles or molecules, which would be a collection of particles or whatever. Like, that's a way of describing it. I can't support that's what's happening because I can't see it, but I can describe it that way. But if I describe it that way, that means I'm describing a situation where each one of those little particles must have structure. And when enough of them are bunched together and moving around or whatever way, with pressure, then they are creating a support. So they are not attached to each other in that description. And I don't disagree with the description totally or anything like that. I'm just saying, in that description, not attached to each other, but enough of them together doing the right thing will support.
Yeah, it
so
will
their combined structure will support.
No, they haven't got a combined structure. They've only got individual collisions. So you can say it will support it, but as soon as you use the term structural support, there's a structure that's providing the support. That's how the English language works. That's what, when you put those two together, it has a proper implication. The structural support of a bridge. It's not the air that's bashing into it, yeah? It's the actual bits that are connected to provide the support through the structure. There is no structure with gases to provide any support. There are only collisions that provide support.
There's pressure support. If it is contained, then the container with the gas in it, the gas will actually provide support as long as it is contained, right? Like you can bounce off a balloon. There's gas in there, but because it is contained within the structure, the whole of it has a support through the pressure.
All right, you done? Check this out. Okay, we got solid, liquid, gas. Okay, we know solid liquids definitely have structure. The question is whether gas does. Okay, now we use the word collision. Collision
No,
is
you're going.
part of. Hold up. Collision is part of a support because whether you drop a bowling ball in the water, on the ground, or drop a ping pong ball on the water or the ground, there's going to be a collision. Okay, so something's going to collide into the structure. The level of support is going to be variant because of the structure. Gas having the weakest because they're little individual particles that must be put together, contain, whatever you want to say it, in order for the parachute or the umbrella for Mary Poppins or for the parachute jumper who spreads his body and resists his fall compared to aerodynamics making his body pointy, breaking through the molecular structure, whatever you want to call it, the particle structure of the gas. Nonetheless, in layman terms, until you get the technical alternative answer, gas has a structure of some kind, whether it's unified, sealed together, one or multiple, or an arrangement. There is a structure because every structure supports to a certain level. It has to. Whether it, what depending on the matter going up against it. A bowling ball against a glass table. There's still going to be some type of structure, but it's going to break through. But still, it's the same thing: solid to solid, milk poured into water, gasoline poured into water, or another gas being pressed through air, or a solid going through air. There's going to be structure because structures do support, and you can't have support unless you have some type of structural. So it's not a false dichotomy. It's just that I think the levels, the strengths of the different support varies between the different matters. I mean, I'm trying to explain it as much better
No,
as I
I
can.
understand what you're saying. I understand exactly what you're saying, and you're just describing what we observe and experience in reality. Now, people can not like the term structure, but what you're just like, D. Rose is correct. For any support to happen, there has to be the both things need to have structure, because if they're made of matter, they'll have structure.
Define structure.
Tiny gas particles. Well, tiny
Define
gas
structure.
particles.
I'm
Well,
just
something
asking
held
you-
together.
Yeah,
Something held
I'm
together.
just asking everyone to define structure, please.
The structure. Oh, I'd have to get the proper full description.
I'll get it.
But just,
All right,
okay, because otherwise I'll just give you whatever I can remember in my head.
I got it. A structure is something that consists of parts connected together in an ordered way.
And I have another one: structure, the arrangement of
each
and
particle
relations
would
between
be
the
that.
again.
parts. Oh, hold up. Let me read mine now. Structure meaning the arrangement of
Ain't
and
mine.
relations. Huh?
Let's
It's not mine thing.
let's just deal with
Structure. A structure
Well,
is
not mine.
something that
Not mine.
consists of parts. Are you done?
I didn't get a chance to read mine because you cut me off.
It's
The
mine.
arrangement of and
We got
the
different.
arrangement
We got different
of.
minds. So which yours? It makes sense, doesn't it? A structure is something that consists of parts connected together in an ordered way.
Okay.
Right.
The
So a
arrangement of and
molecule
relations.
can be a structure then on its own.
Can I read the one I'm looking at now? The arrangement of and relations between the parts.
Zeros.
Yo.
Just deal with one.
Huh?
It's not. Just deal with the description we've got and analyze that before you throw another one in. So, John, do you want to read it again and see if that description can fit with regards to not just one gas molecule, because that may have some structure, say carbon dioxide, but let's have a load of carbon dioxide molecules and see how their behavior can fit with the term structure, can we?
Well, can I read this definition to see if it relates? If it doesn't, then we'll just kick it out. But I'm
How
saying,
about
it says
no?
the
Let's keep with
What?
John's.
D Rose.
What?
Just go with this.
D Rose.
Let's deal with this one first.
You gotta cool out a little bit.
Let
brother.
it go.
Hold on.
A structure is something that consists of parts connected together in an ordered way.
Yeah, I have no problem with that.
Neither do I.
And does gas fit that description?
Is gas described as being many, many particles? Yes.
No, are
it's
they
described
connected?
that way. Yeah.
No, are gas
no, they're not
molecules?
connected to each other. It's not described that way. Go on.
Okay.
Go on.
No, you answered it. That's fair.
Yeah.
But individually, they could that description would hold up.
Exactly.
Individually, no, different parts connected, so that with different molecules of gas connected together.
Yeah, but individually,
Okay.
each particle has structure. If we were going by that description, individually each particle does have structure. So a whole collection of those together will give support.
Not structure. They're not connected.
Yeah, but we never claim, like, I have never said that. I'm just saying, I never claimed that. It's like I've been held to that, and so was Neil and Chocolate and anyone else who was talking about structural support as claiming that. It was never a claim that everything, that gas has structure. It's just an intuitive term that people caught on to.
I've come in late to these discussions every single time for some reason. So I'm always catching the tail end. I really don't know where this is going. I just heard structure and support, and then you got to just define the terms. Make sure the terms are defined correctly, though. Follow?
Can you have a collision with something that has no structure whatsoever?
It's not connected to something else? Can I say that one more time?
Can you have a collision with something that has no structure whatsoever?
No structure. That's what I said. Can I have a collision with something that has all its parts connected together? Yes.
No, he said that's not what he said. Say it again, Chocolate.
No, that's what he's saying because he said structure.
So before the description that you used for the definition you use for structure, that's not relatable to a gas molecule, right? Is that what you're saying?
You said molecule. So there's inner structure to a molecule, right?
Okay.
Because there's intermolecular forces. This is getting highly pedantic, guys.
All right, so that's essentially how gas can collide with each other, right? That's how we have these elastic collisions, right? And that's how
So
we have gas pressure.
They have boundaries as a collective, I'm sure. Each collective, yes. Boundaries, I don't know. I guess you could call that structure. Oh, boy. This is getting a little...
You know what I'm saying? Because I don't know, I find it kind of hard to collide with something that has no structure. But we describe gas molecules as having collisions.
Yeah, but
Okay.
gas together in a container does actually like have a structure. It's like a collective structure that's happens when it's contained and cannot escape.
They're not connected.
That's right. So, but it still provides something that's very similar to structure, even though it doesn't abide to the definition like that, because it only works as a whole.
But it would only work if each individual molecule had that structure that it was able to collide with.
Yeah, I think there's a logical fallacy in there. That this sounds fallacious.
Well, why are you looking for one?
Yeah, exactly.
It just makes sense, right? And now you're like, oh, there's a somewhere in there. Don't do that to me, man. Come on.
Gentlemen, if
I totally get what you're saying, and we've talked about this before. And like people, that is why people intuitively take that term on.
So, Adam, there's more members to the church.
Is this the first time I've taken this on? I think I've spoken about this a long time ago. I don't think it went anywhere though.
I think it went to where we kind of just were okay with saying that gas has no type of structure, which I don't know, doesn't seem to make sense. If you talk about it individually, it doesn't really seem to make sense, because if it doesn't have any of that, how is it colliding with anything? Is what my question is.
Right.
Darn. Eratosthenes.
Yeah. So if it doesn't have
I
structure,
forgot to
what's
say that.
causing it? What's causing gas to press then? If it doesn't have structure, right? And
That's
it's
what my
clearly
point was.
What's causing gas to have pressure?
What's
Can I-
causing
can I-
gas to press if it wouldn't have structure? That's the question. It's an
If it
open
would-
Gas
question.
pressure, right? The force the gas
Doesn't have
exerts on the
structure?
walls of the
I'll answer
container.
it. Kinetic energy. I was going to answer it. Kinetic energy. That doesn't mean gases are connected.
But in order to get that pressure, don't they need to have some sort of structure?
No, no, they don't need.
Well,
No,
they do. Each
No, the
individual
parts-
particle needs it. Otherwise, it's not physical.
Well, if matter is just condensed energy, and energies are
You're s-
enforcing,
Oh, brother.
opposing forces on each other, that's where that pressure and collision comes from.
You're switching up, not you who just spoke. You guys are switching up between individual and the collective.
Yeah, what's wrong with that?
Let's just call it support and not structural support. It's just support. It doesn't have structure, but it still supports. There you go.
Well, it does have structure.
But that doesn't explain anything, though. It's just support. That doesn't mean that you're not given that. That was the whole point of using the word structure before. Is that
Yeah,
it gave
well,
people, and then
that's
people
kind
did
of
something.
bunk.
Well, Neil
Does it
said it
doesn't have
definitely
structure?
has structural support. Gas does. Go ahead, Neil. Show where gases are
Is it-
connected together, please.
Together they do because they can hold people up in air. Air supports things.
So gases are connected together. There has to be
If I-
bonds, right?
But the term gas is a description, or is a term of a medium, or of a whole.
Yeah, not
Yeah.
individuals. Yes,
Yeah,
it
but
could be individual. Just depend on your context.
yeah, but you can't speak about gas without speaking about the individuals,
Can I
because they
jump
are
in?
gas.
I'll just say it quick. Okay, what if we have like one piece of couch and another piece of couch, and I put them together, but they're not touching. And let's just say these pieces of couches are constantly moving up and down, and I'm lying between the two couches. Is that
cou-
structural support?
You said you put them together without touching. I'd like to see that.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. How are they together then?
Well, it was just a picture. It's two objects, right? They're moving up and down, and I'm sitting on them while they're moving up and down. Are they structural support to me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you're sitting on them.
They're preventing your disequilibrium with your medium from moving. So they are definitely providing structural support.
So why can't you say the same thing about two gas, let's say particles, if that's what they are?
No, that's
Why
what they
can't they
are.
be supporting?
Why
Well,
can't?
I'm not
Because they
claiming to
flow.
know. I'm
So
not
they
claiming to
could
know.
technically provide support if they could be made to not escape the pressure, because gas will just move in all directions, will go to the lower pressure as it does, right? Local air pressure differential, and just move around it. So it won't then provide. It's only going to provide support if it cannot escape.
Yeah, gas can only provide support if it's contained.
Correct.
Exactly.
So uncontained gas will not support anything. But
Yeah, but there's no
contained gas.
structure. Yeah, but there's no structure within the intermolecular. Right?
No, because
there's-
they're individual.
Yeah.
Right.
That's
So
how
it's
we describe them, yeah.
non-structural support. There you go.
But it's structure, but they require structure to be able to support. Because without
but
that
they
structure, they
don't.
won't be able to support.
No,
but
they
without
don't.
the
They
structure,
just
wouldn't be,
need to be
they wouldn't be
contained.
physical.
So it's
But they
more
wouldn't
like
be
a
physical.
collective support. It's not structure that's providing the support. It's them being
But this-
contained that provide the
Yeah,
support.
but it's like loads of people holding up a big flag or a big thing in a stadium. That it's lots of people holding it up. But all those people have to have structure to hold it up. Otherwise, they won't be held up.
Yeah, but you're talking about solids though, so it's not the same thing.
Well, we're just talking about structure. I mean, particles have to be described as having structure because
That's
they
right.
are a particle.
Yeah, solids
They're a
have
physical thing.
structure. That's correct. Gases don't. They only provide support when they're contained, not because of structure.
Yeah, but they have to have structure to do that. That's the
Doesn't
point.
that take us
That's
back
the
Based
to the
on
problem.
what?
parachutes?
Based on what? What are you basing
Doesn't
it
that
on?
go
Because
back to
that take us
if
solids
they
back to
don't
the
have
parachute?
structure, then they're not going to be anything. They won't be able to do. They won't be able to support.
Well, that's a presupposition that you can't prove.
Well, it
You're
is. Without
conflating-
physicality, you can't support something. Something
Again, a
non-physical.
presupposition, you can't
Something
prove that.
non-physical can't support something physical.
How do
You can
parachutes
float
Hold on,
collisions
work?
just
and
one second.
support
Just
again.
one sec. And even you've dropped the structural bit now, Brian.
I haven't dropped this. I haven't. I didn't make a claim of. I never made the claim that gas as a whole had structure. I never made that claim. The term structural support, which I will continue to use, is an intuitive term. I just don't want to keep
it's
throwing it
confusing.
out there because it's in this conversation because it's going to cause anger in the conversation. I'm trying to have a conversation and not an argument.
It's confusing though. We already have terms that do describe it, and I don't know why you don't use them.
What term describes it?
Because he's Irish. Collisions. Collisions.
Collisions
Pressure.
of what?
Pressure.
Pressure. Pressure of what?
How much
Pressure
the,
support.
By the collisions
the
of the
gas
molecules with the
particles
surface.
press
Collisions of what? What's colliding? What's colliding?
gas with the surface? So it could be the surface of a wing. Arwen's still correct. In order to have that in the first instance, you've got to have contained gas, to have the Bernoulli effect, to have a pressure differential, to have enough pressure on the underside of the wing to provide support for the plane. That it doesn't involve any
Yeah,
structure.
but-
There's nothing intuitive when you say structural
does.
support in that.
But it does. Back to
The
Chocolate's
parachute.
point. Each one of those particles have to have structure for that to happen. So
No.
there's a collective structure going on.
It's
They're
only
not
because they
connected,
need
but
to be
it's
rigid
collective.
in order for the effect to transpire. They need to be rigid. Well, gases contained
have
don't
structure.
need to be rigid. They just need to be contained. So they have no structure.
You're
But
conflating
the
it.
gas particles have structure. You can't say gas particles don't have structure. That's like they're described as having structure.
What's the shape of the
No.
structure?
You're talking about a
Hold on.
molecule.
What's the shape of the structure?
I don't know. I can't see them, just like you can.
Well, how do you know that they have structure then? If you're not able
How do you
to
know
see
they
it?
don't then? How do you know they don't? With the original
parachute.
point I made
Measure
about
it.
Airplanes.
I could see aeroplanes
Gas
flying.
pressure.
Yeah,
parachute.
but
Yes, back to
that
Anthony's
doesn't mean.
question.
But
The
hang on,
parachute.
I was asked by Arwen, how do you know they have structure? And I said, how do you know they don't?
You're turning it into an ether, Ryan.
No, I'm not going to just settle for what you want me to settle to. When you need me to settle to something that you can't actually show. It's the way we describe it. It's how we describe the behavior, right? If you take water, right? Hang on, water becomes water vapor, which is a gas. Now we can't see this water vapor, but we have to pre-assume. Well, we don't have to, but we pre-assume that those little tiny particles of water vapor are still physical.
Okay,
So
okay.
they still have a
No, that's
structure.
fair enough.
And
No,
when
that's
they
fair
co-
enough
and when they
standard.
co-
But
cover
hold
it
on,
together,
Brian.
they
Let me
become
just
a
ask you.
cloud.
Hold on.
Okay.
By that standard, Adam's example now comes into play, which is to say, well, by that standard, can you prove it's not doozers from Fraggle Rock holding the plane up? We can't see them.
That's
I can't prove any of it because I can't prove any of it because I can't see it.
What he's saying.
Yeah, you
what he's
can. Water
saying-
has provable structure.
What
It's
he's
called
saying
surface
is that's
tension.
an argument from ignorance fallacy when you switch it up and say, can you prove it not? And this whole thing boils
It's
down
argument from
to,
ignorance.
hold on a second. There's another fallacy going on here. I knew there was. Fallacy of composition. Inferring something is true of the whole from the fact that it's true of some part of the whole. That's what's going on here. Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
No.
Yes, sorry, I was on
No.
mute. Yes, it's a composition fallacy.
Not really. We're talking about the physicality of each particle and how the collective of them together how they will affect something.
I thought you were going to say
Can you
structure.
isolate a gas particle?
Hold on, as Brian
Well,
proved it.
stay
Hold
away
on.
from the term
We
structure
need to draw a
because it's
line
only
through some of these
cardinality.
things. Hello? Have you proven
Hey
it's not?
Nathan, am I going to be allowed
Hello?
to read
Hello?
read the definition?
Hello? Trying to draw a line through some of these points. So have you proven it isn't doozers or what, Brian?
Have I proven it isn't doozers? No, I haven't. I've proven about as much about it as you or anyone else has.
That's not what I asked. Have you disproven the doozers claim?
Have I disproved? I can't disprove. I can't prove or disprove, Nathan, because I can't see. I have to pre-assume.
But it's only reasonable to pre-assume
Now, I say
doozers.
that.
Hold
Hang
on.
a
Hold
second.
on. We're
Hang
getting
on,
somewhere.
No,
Hold on.
hang on.
We're getting somewhere.
you
We're getting
holding
somewhere.
me
So it's only reasonable to pre-assume doozers then?
It's not. Well, you can if you want. I can't tell you you're wrong. I can't disprove it. The point. That's not the point I was making. Well, it is the point. The point I made to Adam is that Adam trying to hold someone to say gas is. You're claiming gas is structure. Gas has no structure. Adam can't prove it has no structure, and each particle has to have structure. That's the point.
We've already covered this. Argument from ignorance, composition fallacy, and burden of proof reversal fallacy. So 3 fallacies in that.
No, what do you mean burden of proof? No, I have never claimed that gas as a whole had a structure or was a structure. I never claimed that.
So why does Neil think it?
Never, exactly.
Why is Neil saying it then?
Neil doesn't.
Neil didn't claim that either.
I didn't claim that. No,
What do you
you're
think
all
I
straw-manning us.
Because he's a Brian simp.
Bloody Brian simps everywhere.
Yeah,
He's a
that I
Brian
agree. But
sympathizer. He's a Brian sympathizer. That's
Neil,
what
can
Neil
you
is.
shut up?
No. You should hold me to something that I never said.
Well,
We've already
that
covered
gives
this,
me a
Neil.
Brian too. If
Talking
I'm
about
asking
you.
how you could have collisions with something that doesn't have any structure, does that
No.
become your Brian Simp?
We're going to have to draw a line through this. Look, can we at least have the common decency to talk about Neil behind his back?
No.
Are y'all still arguing for the structure of gas?
Yes.
Why
Yes,
don't
Brian.
you let
Yes,
D Rose read his?
Brian and Chocolate are presupposing it has to be there, even though
No, we're not.
it's provably not there,
no,
and it still exerts
really?
pressure while contained.
complete straw
Yeah.
man. No, we weren't arguing.
that's
for
exactly
structure
what you're
in the
arguing.
first place.
Maybe D Rose has a definition he would like to read about structure.
Excuse me. Thank you, Neil. Thank you. Y'all done made me
Well, you
freaking
know,
lose. Hold on. Okay. Can y'all hear me? All right, here we go. The arrangement of and relations between the parts or elements of something complex. That's all it is. An example, flint is extremely hard, like diamond, which has a similar structure.
Too vague.
Doesn't say connected to or not, just says an arrangement of. An arrange. Huh?
How are they arranged? So if
Yeah.
they're using a diamond, that's a lattice. So
Well, that was
they're
just an example.
connected.
But the definition is that it's a noun. It just means the arrangement of and relations between the parts or elements.
Yeah, I heard you the
of
first
some-
time.
Okay.
Yeah, the problem is gases take the shape of their containment. So in terms of their organization, unlike a diamond, they're going to be chaotic and just whatever shape their containment is. So in terms of structural support, it's only down to the amount of pressure that can be applied on some object within that contained system.
Right, so the container provides the structure, really.
No, it doesn't. The gas contains particles that are going to press on whatever it is. If we're describing an aeroplane wing, well, it's going to have the gas pressing on it in a higher concentration because of the differential. Okay, that requires containment to have enough gas to create the differential to create the lift. So yes, you're right that you need containment as a prerequisite or as an antecedent, but it doesn't mean that the container's causing the Bernoulli effect. The gas pressing on the underside of the wing is creating the lift.
How does it do that with no structure?
But it is contained, though.
You won't have the pressure without the
That goes,
container.
that goes back to
How's
Thank
the
you,
plane
Chocolate.
doing
Well,
that?
it's contained.
I give an intuitive example. Did anybody respond? Okay, I had to drop. I got an important phone call. But I give an intuitive example of the differential between two flat planes and describing Earth as as a sphere. Did anybody give a response to that?
Me, highly
Yeah, I did.
intuitive. I said highly intuitive.
I
Yeah, I
said
gave
Earth
a
curve
response
doesn't
to it.
exist.
Hold on, Brian's got to call us
Exactly.
straw manners and stuff. Go on, Brian.
Yeah, it is. It's a complete straw man because our curve doesn't exist, but we can show that air will support something.
How do you know there's any air? You can't see it.
Structurally,
Gas only presses because it's contained. If it
It's a
wasn't
col-
Oh,
contained,
gas
then it
presses?
wouldn't
How does it
then
We
it
got
press
would
on
that,
not.
anything?
Arwin. We got that.
Without a container,
How
we
does
wouldn't
gas
have
press
the
on
chocolate.
anything?
Hold on.
Oh,
What do you
Listen to
want? Brownie points, Arwin? We got that.
He's ignoring chocolate.
Ask.
Chocolate's using a composition fallacy.
Is he?
by
Chocolate's using common
asking
sense.
how I'm conducting a fallacy by asking how
Yep.
does a plane work if
Nope.
the
Nope.
wings
You said-
aren't. Go ahead.
Nope.
What did I say?
No, you didn't say anything about planes. You said about the interactions between the gases in that container. How can they, if they don't have structure, then how can they interact? Paraphrasing.
Yeah, how do they collide?
That's a fallacy of composition, inferring something is true of the whole from the fact that it's true of some part of the whole.
But what
So
did
you
I
flip-
infer about the whole?
Yeah,
He
you
didn't infer
boiled
the
it
whole.
down to individuals.
Yeah, but when did
And
I
their
infer? What did
structure-
I infer about the whole, though?
If
You
it's
What do you mean?
boiled
structured
it-
and connected.
It's very simple. You boiled it down to the individual structures and the structure of the whole. That's why.
Right, let me give you an analogy. If you've got ants,
That's
and the
everything.
ants are comparable to the gas molecules, and an individual ant can't push the steamroller, but a whole colony of ants can. Does that mean that all of the ants are like the Borg as one, connected, physically
Yeah.
connected together? Because they're not. They're each individual ant is each pulling his own weight and pushing the steamroller, but they're not one ant. They don't suddenly become one ant, do they? They're all individual.
Hey, let me throw this at you, Nathan. When we
become
have,
And
closed
each individual
system,
ant
though.
is
hang on one
structured
second,
is structured.
just 1 second. When we have dust, right, that used to be a rock. Was
Yeah.
that rock not made of many tiny parts? Because each dust particle is made of many tiny parts. Everything's made of many tiny parts. Everything.
But they're bonded
From what we
together,
can
so
tell.
you can use them to
Get 'em,
support
Brian.
a house.
Get 'em, Brian.
That's got structural support.
Everything is made of many tiny parts. Everything.
Information isn't.
Sure, but if I grind something down to a powder, it no longer is offering any of the structural support, is it?
Well, it can still offer it. Sand.
You think if I just take the powder without mixing it with anything else, I can offer structural support with the dust. I can build a house with dust. Obviously not.
Not a house with dust, but you can support stuff. You can support
Yeah,
stuff
but
by
we
placing it onto
can
large amounts
certainly
of dust.
fly in giant vehicles with on stuff that has no support.
Let's talk
Right.
about
So
sand.
support, and so the term support is not
Well, the
dependent upon
assumption-
structure.
But
Yeah.
gas does have.
Hold on, John.
It would have
Hold
to
on.
depend
I don't
on
want to stop.
some structure
Hold on, John's just
that
got
the
to the
gas
conclusion.
has
Hello?
in order for
Hello?
the plane to
Hello?
work.
Hello?
That's a composition
Hello?
fallacy.
Me saying hello 16 times not going to work? Yeah, John just came to the conclusion. Yeah, absolutely, John. So, okay, you grind it down to a powder and it still provides support, but it's not structural.
That's
That's
right.
not but the point is that how can you have support without the structure? The structure of all the small tiny parts.
Because you can
You
still
go figure that out,
you
Brian.
can still roll up.
No, there we go. You can't have it without it. By having
Oh, but that's a
physical
presupposition.
No, you
be
can.
supported by something non-physical.
You can. You can still provide support if you've got lots and lots of dust. You can still drive on sand, right? So it's still providing support, but it's not structural in nature.
But every tiny particle has structure.
If you have lots of
Exactly.
dust that each individually has a structure.
So you're saying your intuitive example works on the gaseous level,
But
You're saying,
together they don't.
you're saying your intuitive example works on the gaseous level because each individual gas particle has got structure. Then it doesn't. It's no longer
Well, I mean,
Oh,
it would
hello,
have to,
hello.
wouldn't
I'm
it?
nearly. Jesus. So, based on that, it no longer has any coherence in terms of what you're using it to explain. If you say, well, each individual gas particle that individually is pressing on the bottom side of a plane wing, for example, well, then it's no longer offering the coherency that you are using it to provide.
Is it not while it's flying at 35,000 feet? I don't. I don't know.
You
It's
think
because
it's
it's
all around
supported.
the plane,
Yeah,
right?
let's just answer chocolate. Because it's
Nick,
supported by the pressure of the air, but it's not because the air has structure.
But it has to have, each tiny particle must have structure to become a pressure.
Yeah, we got that. But when it's
How-
comparable to why
just
things are being
presupposing.
supported, and you say it's because it has structure, and then you have to go down to the microscopic level to make that analogy make sense, it stops being intuitive, Brian.
Not to me.
But isn't it fallacious
It's
to,
not
It's
other
to
people.
argue
supposition.
from the
You're
fact that it
just
has
claiming that
structure in
it
the
has
first
to.
place?
You don't have proof.
Who was
So,
asking
Nathan,
that
you said
question?
long
Sorry,
arm.
someone from Discord asked a question. Go
John.
ahead.
I think it's fallacious to start the argument from the individual particle level, because you can't prove that at all.
Do you deny Brownian motion?
I don't deny anything. I'm just asking for the particle.
Are you aware of Brownian motion?
Yes, I have an understanding of it, correct?
What's your understanding of Brownian motion?
Sorry, that each individual particle moves a certain way based on the energy transferred to it. Is that correct?
You just said you don't believe in individual particles.
No, I don't. But I have an understanding of the model.
So then you must either not accept Brownian motion, or you have an alternative explanation. Surely.
No, he said he accepted the
But
model.
Brownian motion is a description.
Yeah, it's correct. He gave,
No, I understand.
no, he
Sorry,
gave a reasonable
I
answer.
understand that is. Oh, sorry, guys.
He gave a reasonable answer.
Correct.
What was his definition? Sorry, I just got back. What was the definition of Brownian motion?
He didn't actually define it. I can do that now if you want me to.
No, I know what it is.
Yeah. Okay.
The random
Look,
movement
my
Random
argument.
movement of
My argument.
particles.
Random movement of
Correct.
particles that are suspended in a liquid or a gas. Pretty simple.
Correct. Correct. Yeah.
Can we
It's
demonstrate
all
that?
on the internet.
Yeah.
Wasn't your point previously that you think that it's fallacious to start off with particles if you can't prove the particle exists?
Yep.
Correct. That is my position, but it doesn't mean I don't understand what the model says.
No, but if you do understand what the model says, how do you then conclude that it's fallacious to start with the particle existed in the first place?
Because I want cowbell first, right?
Yeah, there's nothing
That's
wrong with that.
Brownian motion. It
Hold on,
is.
let's
Nothing
just.
wrong with
Guys, before you scoff, can we just hear his objection?
I didn't catch what he said.
That he wants
Say it again.
cowbell, but he didn't qualify what he meant by that.
Look, I'm not arguing the model. The model is useful, correct? But I mean, if you're
What
going to
model?
argue on that molecular level, right? Sorry.
So you're
Somebody's
saying
talking.
what model? He's saying
What?
Brownian motion as a model. It's not.
Oh,
Yeah. So yeah, essentially, if you're going to argue on that level, then we need to provide evidence for that level. If not, it's just a model and it's useful, correct?
So
Evidence
are you
for what?
saying
It
then
doesn't mean it's
that the
reality.
molecules?
Is it intuitive?
Hold on. What are you suggesting there isn't evidence for?
The molecule's existence.
But there's an
What?
entire field of
Correct.
science based on quanta. What do you mean?
Yeah, I'm talking. No, I'm talking about air specifically. Yes, there is a model that describes how these things moves and behaves, but nobody's seen it do that,
What
right?
we see, bro? You can see bromine gas. Yeah, we see. Somebody post that video to him.
Well,
No,
these
I'm specifically
things,
talking about
you can't see
air.
the
I'm talking
individual.
about air.
It's still, we're talking about air. I thought you said gas. Just
Yeah, but even
Well,
told
air
me we
is a
can't see the
gas,
individual
but
particles.
He's saying it's
correct,
the
right?
fallacious
individual
because we can't
particle.
prove. He's saying it's fallacious because we can't prove that the existence of certain particles.
what?
Individual.
No, he said these things. It's a model of these things that exist. That's fine, but you still have these things that exist. If you don't want to believe in the model, you still have to accept that particles exist.
And I can respect that. That's if you can show it to me that these air molecules exist, then I can accept that. Correct.
Molecules. We got another Pete and Pete here. Yeah, that's what I'm going to do. That's right after breakfast. I'm going to show you that molecules exist.
Huey, is this
But
the
gases
second
don't.
person now that's descending into ridiculum or retardum just
Yep.
not can see the point? We've now got to deny molecules so I don't have to lose an argument.
Yes. Well,
No,
why don't you show
No,
them?
no, absolutely not.
Hold on a sec.
Absolutely
Hold on a
not.
second.
When I
He's not-
argue within the flat Earth debate arena, I argue for the behavior of gas, and that can be proven, right? We all know what gas does. I mean, we can see when a plane lifts off. That's proven. Lift, all of that. And when it
How
comes
can
to
it prove
actually
it? You can't
arguing
see
at
it.
that level of air,
No,
excuse
you
me.
just said by your
The
standards,
hell?
if you can't see it, you can't prove it. I don't know why planes take off if we're now in this wishy-washy world where
Yep.
gas particles don't exist. Like I say, I think you'll find it's invisible unicorns is the reason the airplanes take off. It's got nothing to do with particulate matter.
This is ridiculous. I mean,
That's
just
right, you
because
can't
it's
prove it either.
transparent doesn't mean that it isn't measurable. It absorbs and radiates heat, all that. There's
Exactly.
exchanges all over the
Exactly.
place. So
Hold on.
Exactly.
I want to clarify his objection because he stated that the model of these things within the way he was attacking the claim. Is he challenging the model or the existence of these things? And do you understand the distinction?
The existence of the thing sounds like that's what he's challenging, that he has doubted.
nah, I
Yeah, what
thought
I
the
challenge is
model
Correct,
of the
because
molecule itself as a bouncing ball
all I'm
colliding, that thing.
No, he's talking
all
about
I'm
the
asking.
particle itself.
How can anything behave or something, anything, everything, something, thing behave? Something has to behave, so something exists that behaves.
Right. I mean, thank you for breaking it down, but I just want his clarification. Is he challenging the model of the thing or the thing itself?
Not challenging the model. I'm not challenging the thing itself, right? I was listening to the arguments, right? People are talking to Brian and you guys back and forth about structure and all of that. And then every time I hear that Brian is fallacious or there's a fallacious reasoning when it comes to arguing from the structural point of view, because gas is little molecules and it behaves a certain way. All I'm saying is, okay, well, that's cool. Well, so those molecules behaving in that certain way.
Hold on a sec. No, that's not how the argument went. The argument was brought to the
Yes,
molecular
it
level
is.
by him. It was brought to the molecular level by him. And we
Yes.
could go through it again if you'd like.
No,
Brian
John,
Dorn took it to
you
the
got it wrong
molecular
in the first
level.
place when you first came into it.
Did I?
What happened? Yeah, you got the point is that it was Neil was held to task by Adam about the term structural support, saying what structure does gas have? And I pointed out to Adam, you can't prove that it does or doesn't have structure because we can't see it. That's the point. That's why we have a model that describes it and describes its behavior, because we can't see the little tiny what we're pre-assuming as a little tiny particle.
Or
So why
doozers.
What the man is what the
if you're denying that from your opponent's side, and that's your rebuttal to that, how is it justifiable for you to use a term which has specific meanings with regards to structural support? It in of itself is a more fundamental claim than just trying to understand the nature of gas behavior and accept that. It is the claim that's being dealt with.
I didn't make a claim that gas has structural support.
Yeah, but when you
structural
say,
support as a whole,
I'm not saying that. I'm saying when you come back, not your claim. When you come back as a rebuttal as you've just done there, yeah, then it kind of undermines the whole point.
Yeah, but
Because for your
should I
attack is
just
to
accept?
say you can't show anything, therefore we can't prove anything. But that means that limitation applies to yourself when you invoke that the same.
But I'm hearing no
hang
one's
on,
claiming.
Exactly.
Hang on, John. Hang on. Just let me reply. Hang on. No. If somebody is going to use the molecular model for gas and its behavior as a way of debunking or saying that, see, it can't have any structure, then I'm going to go to the tiny and say, well, show us the tiny then. And if we want to talk about the tiny, then we have to talk, just like Chocolate said, where the tiny has to have structure, has to have a structure for it to be able to collide, or even some other tiny thing.
No, but you go on to
the object again, right? The point is, it didn't start like that. It started off with just that statement that gas has structural support. And that's where it all kicked off from.
But that wasn't the same. Neil just
that
stated
one
structural
statement.
support. That's
You
what he
said
said.
it. Neil got excited and said, I agree with that. That's the best way of understanding it, right? Which is why I then challenged it.
Adam, you're putting words in my mouth. That's not
Okay,
what
well,
I
what
said.
did you say then? What did you say?
That's not what I said.
Well, you
I
tell me
said,
what you said
understand
then.
structural support, but not with gas. When you brought up gas, I said
never
everything
said
has
that
to
at
have
all.
support.
You didn't say that. You didn't say that.
Not
Neil.
in the slightest.
I did not say anything about gas.
Adam
Put
cited
freaking
you
words
correctly.
in my mouth.
Adam cited you correctly. What you said was exactly what Adam said.
Yeah, but he
That's
didn't
not what I said.
specifically say not with gas. So because he didn't say it, that excludes it. I mean, that's perfectly reasonable, Neil.
That's not what I said. I'll go back and listen to the fucking thing. That's not what I said.
That is
No,
what you
Put
said.
words in my mouth, Adam.
Neil,
You're using
I'm not
me as a
attacking
fucking
you.
poster child.
No
But
swearing.
you got Chocolate that understands it too. You got D-Rose that's trying to understand it. And you're just shitting all over it because you have an idea or something.
No,
and I
it's
agree.
you guys that have got the made-up idea. That's my objection. Listening to people.
Not a made-up
who haven't
idea.
studied this
You keep
properly
bringing gas
and are
into
using
it.
words that they don't
It's a freaking
understand,
description.
and they're
He's
using them
describing something.
inappropriately.
You keep
so
having
that
a
when
hard
they
time
use them,
because Brian
Come
is
on now.
describing
No,
something
dudes.
and you're trying to put him on. You're trying to hold him fast to something that he's not even saying.
no, I'm trying.
right, let me-
Sit
I'm
here,
trying to
listen
stop
to this shit
people.
for an hour.
Hello,
using
yelling
words.
is not going to make you more comprehensible. Okay,
No.
we're not.
I took an objection when people, and D-Rose is another example, people are using descriptions incorrectly, yeah, which is creating confusion, whether it's Brian in the initial point, or you when you join in, or D-Rose, as you're saying now, he's trying to understand more. None of you will understand it because the descriptions you're using will only confuse you because the words you're using are not applicable. They can't be applicable, yeah, because you can't have structure in gas particles. You could have a structure in one
can.
molecule.
No, I don't agree with that. Now
You
I
don't
agree
have
with
to
that.
agree, Neil, but you don't have anything to oppose it with actual logic and reason and facts, mate. All you've got is it sounds a
No,
bit
because
intuitively.
logically, everything needs support.
Intuitively.
Okay, Adam, logically,
That's the only
everything
evidence
needs
you've
support.
given is that
Doesn't have to be
Everything
shouting match.
needs
it makes sense.
support.
I let him speak, but they're going to jump all over me. And the point is, that they're saying
Everything
words.
needs support. Everything.
you see,
You
that's
want to
the
put
point.
structure to
So we
it?
got-
I'll put structure to it, and I'll freaking stand there with it.
What support does it give? Does the gas give? Does it give structural support, collision based?
Show me that it doesn't. I'll stand with Brian when he said there.
You stand with Brian and you'll both be wrong. It's fine. You keep using words,
Well, Adam, okay,
meanings
okay,
are
Adam,
not
now you have to
applicable,
prove the existence
and
of
that's
particles.
absolutely fine. But what's going to happen is people will always object because you're not making sense. Yeah.
With that, I'm going to say another huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G+ panels for making today's rather heated after show possible. And of course, a massive thank you to all of you for smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, hitting me up on PayPal, and all that good stuff. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
what a day! What a lovely day!